That's fun. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, March 15th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. 7-game slate ahead of us. Kind of gross, but we lock 5 games in the first half hour, 2 games at 7:30, another 3 at 8 o'clock. So we can just wait for the late night hammer of Golden State and the Clippers, which is a game that I actually want to watch. I wish Andrew Wiggins was healthy. Be sure, well, I guess he is healthy. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, what's up?
Not much. Looking forward to this slate, I think. I like these 7-8 gamers. I like when most of the starting times are condensed. I think it's pretty fun.
The condensed starting time really is the best. In a perfect world, we would drop that 10 o'clock game, make it like a really awesome showdown slate, and this was a 7:30 to 8:30. Like, to me, that's the dream scenario.
Oh yeah. You don't have to like look at your computer at all after 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that is, like, to me, that's the saving grace to, like, if you want to keep late swap around, then just drop this island 10 o'clock game and make it a showdown slate. Where I'm at. Listen to me, DraftKings. I know it's what. FanDuel, I don't know what you're doing. You probably do that anyway, but nobody wants to play your garbage.
I don't mind it when it's like Golden State Clippers. I hate it when it's like, San Antonio, or a few years ago it was the Kings that were just randomly rest guys at 10 o'clock every night.
I was going to say Portland somebody, but at least Portland has Dame.
Right.
The rest of Portland
and Portland's predictable when they're healthy.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, we got a lot to talk about. We got an hour to do it. You ready to just dive in for this one?
Yep.
Should be fun. It's a slate for sure, and I mean that in like
interesting.
The
I have
way.
a crunch running in the background right now, so as we go through the show, I'll get a better idea of what I'd be doing if the slate started right now. But it's one of those slates where like I'm interested to see what actually shows up for me, because I can see it going a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, I've got a new crunch running now. The only thing that I won't have is this slight change to Ricky Rubio, which I can't imagine is going to be driving a lot of interesting shit for me today.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference to me.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Not today, at least. Not with Mitchell back.
Brooke Lopez is questionable tomorrow.
You said that, and I was just like, okay, now that matters. Yeah. And then I heard the tomorrow. I was like, oh, that doesn't matter.
No, only matters for my best ball team.
Oh, yes, it does. All right, let's get into this bad boy. Make sure you're hitting that like button, folks. 870 people in here now, 134 likes. We're going to have a fun one. Philadelphia 76ers, 1.5-point favorites. Is that still the line? Nope. 2.5-point favorites in Cleveland, 223 total. For Philly, we actually did get news today. No Jalen McDaniels in this one. Don't think that really matters all that much. We've got 15% ownership coming into Embiid, about 10 coming into Hardy. Yeah, Harden. We'll talk about Hardy in a bit. I haven't done a show other than the process since Monday morning, so I'm a little rusty. Let's just start with Embiid and Harden. Anything like interesting to say about them today?
No, I mean, it's not a great matchup. It is a more favorable matchup than it would be if Jared Allen were in on the other side, but they're clearly always fine to get to. With the ownership the way it is, I will say that I don't expect to get quite as much Embiid as the field, and I do think there's a chance I get a little bit more Harden, but there's nothing wrong with Embiid. He's 11-4, clearly gives you a massive ceiling. I think the reason that I'm not getting quite as much, or not expecting to get quite as much, is just that, you have a value center on the slate, assuming that Mamoukelashvili starts for the Spurs. You have plenty of other good centers as well. So it's just not where I see myself paying up a ton, but clearly still a good play. And then similarly for Harden, I mean, the guy's averaging 38 plus minutes per game over his last 10. That's pretty much where he's been for the season. Assuming this game's competitive, you're getting 38, 39 minutes from James Harden most nights.
I got 11% Embiid. I got like 5% Harden. I don't look at that and think to myself, like, wow, I really should be getting a lot more. Wouldn't care if I did, but like, that's just sort of where it's at. Have some shares, non-priorities. And then I look at the rest of Philadelphia. I got 1 share of Tobias Harris and nobody else. I don't see anything else here for Philly.
Yeah, no, me neither. Jalen McDaniels being out, I don't think really changes much. It just made me give a few minutes to Daniel House. It made me give, a couple extra minutes to Shake Milton, but nothing that is really going to swing anything at all. And Tobias Harris at 5,200. If you want to play Tobias Harris, hope that you run well in rebounds or 3-point shooting, sure. But this doesn't really strike me as the slate where I need to get to much of him.
All righty. I just finished off my new crutch. I have 8% of Embiid and 5% of Harden right now. So, it's going to be in around that 10 and 5 mark.
As far as the top projected players go, right now, I do have Harden being the most under-owned of the Embiid, Tatum, Sabonis, Harden group. Actually, I have Curry being the most under-owned of the top guys, followed by Harden. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting a lot of him. It's just that he looks under-owned.
I'm not really getting to much of this top end at all, so we'll get there in a bit. Let's go to the Cleveland side. Cleveland looked a little bit different yesterday. We've got Donovan Mitchell back for today. Jared Allen still out. Ricky Rubio was out, now in. Not all that meaningful on a day like today. As we look at Cleveland, we sort of know what they're doing on a night-to-night basis. Highest owned guy right now is Darius Garland at 25%. Let's just start there. 7,600, too cheap.
Yeah, too cheap. Looks good. It's another situation, and we have a couple of these on the slate where you have a very obvious mid-range point guard value. It's just too cheap of a price tag for Garland, even with Mitchell back. You're expecting big playing time from him, on average, giving you around 35 minutes, but certainly can play more. So he looks good. He's probably going a bit over-owned in the sense of, optimal percentage versus ownership, but that doesn't mean you can't play him or he's a bad play. It just means find somewhere else in your lineup to differentiate and he becomes fine. The thing that does always concern me a little bit when you start getting guys like this around 25% is there's just never any shortage of players in the like $7K to $8,500 range that have high ceilings and a similar range of outcomes, even if their median projection is lower. So you can always find pivots away from Garland, but still clearly think he's a good play. I think he's just underpriced at 7,600.
Better play, and we'll get to it in a bit, but you know where I'm going now based on our conversation before. Darius Garland or D'Angelo Russell?
I have Russell.
Okay. I have Garland. And that's one spot where that ownership is going. We've got one or two other spots that we could touch on in a bit, but I don't quibble. I'm not going to quibble over that. Certainly a better matchup for D'Angelo Russell. That's for sure.
Yeah, but just a little bit.
Yeah. How are you handling the rest of Cleveland? The second most owned guy for the Cavs right now is $3,400 Lamar Stevens at 12%. That seems unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, he's showing up like around 9% for me right now. He's still really cheap at 3,400. He should give you 28 to 30 minutes. He's a low usage guy. He had like a 15% usage rate yesterday, but again, that was with no Donovan Mitchell either. Now you get Mitchell back. His job on this team is not to do much that translates to fantasy points. It's to play defense and just soak up some minutes. But he's still so cheap that I understand how people are landing on him, but it's not a spot that I really want to get much of. If you get to some Donovan Mitchell, great. At 9,300, he's got a really high ceiling, but he's pretty much correctly priced, if not a little bit overpriced, whereas Darius Garland is underpriced. Mobley's salary has come up to 8,100. He's better without Jared Allen. You do get a little bit of a bump in production playing his minutes at the 5, but I think that salary increase pretty much makes up for it as well. So it's not like you're getting any crazy value there. There's a path to big minutes for Karis LeVert at 4,900, played 34 minutes 2 games ago, even with Mitchell in. But, I think expecting around 30 minutes makes sense, which makes him just not look super exciting.
Yeah, I have very, very minimal amounts of anybody here for Cleveland other than Darius Garland. So I don't have anything else here to say about the Cavs. This is just not one of the more interesting games other than the fact that Garland is just underpriced.
Agreed.
Alrighty, then let us hit that like button. Now I'm going to ask again because we're up to 1,300 people. And we got to talk about the schedule for the rest of the day. Adam and I will be here till 6:30. You'll get live before lock after us. That's going to be Greg and Neil taking you all the way up to 7:30 and then the bonus half hour. But we don't end our content at that point. PGA live before lock will come up at 8 p.m. So you get another show. Graphic is on the screen. Enjoy that one. And don't forget, if you want to sign up at Stokastic, we can help you out here. There will be a link in chat or in the description of this video. You can get 50% off a week or a month of any non-Fantasy Cruncher package, any sport, or just Platinum, which covers everything. That's going to be projections, ownership, boom bust, lineup generator, lineup builder. Everything that you could want to check out at Stokastic is available. Hit that link in the description. Memphis Grizzlies, 4-point dogs in Miami, 220 total. What do you think of the Jaws suspension?
I don't really have much of a take on it. I mean, at first they didn't say that it was retroactive, which I just thought seemed wildly aggressive.
Yeah.
But once they announced it was retroactive, I mean, I think it's really difficult to have an informed take on it because I have no idea what the league knows or I'm sure there is other stuff that has happened or more information that we it isn't publicly available. So it's really difficult to look and say oh, that's too much or that's not enough or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I thought that people they announced that he, wasn't in counseling anymore. I thought people predictably just completely overreacted to that. Did you think he was going to go there for a year? He didn't actually do a whole lot wrong. It's more of he just keeps doing pretty dumb shit and should stop. But it's not like he's, blacked out at half court of a basketball game or something. He's
right.
I don't really know what people expected, but pretty much seems in line with what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. Out of a job if he keeps going, not even close. Not even remotely close.
Keeps doing what? That's the thing.
Yeah, no.
If a regular citizen brought a gun on a plane, he didn't bring a gun on a plane. Or at least he got someone to say that he didn't bring a gun on a plane.
Yeah. Well, he could also bring a gun on a plane. He just can't do that because of the NBA rules. Surely he can bring a gun with him on a plane. I'm not saying that he's going to have a gun in his waistband, but you can clearly travel with a gun.
Have you ever flown before?
You can't have it on your persons. I'm not saying he was walking around the cabin and stuff, but anybody can travel with a gun.
Yeah.
It's not illegal. You're not allowed to have it in the NBA law, but
right.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he was pulling it on a stewardess and asking for an extra ginger ale or something.
I'm following now.
Yeah. We're good. Let's just talk about Memphis.
I was gonna say I just want to fly on whatever flights you're on.
You wouldn't want to fly. I'd be shooting holes in the side of the plane. We'd be dead. We'd be Swiss cheese. I'd miss everybody.
So somebody said my sister carries a gun on a plane. She's a federal. Yeah, one of my best friends just finished school, to be an IRS agent or whatever. I don't know what the official name is, but yeah, he can now bring a gun on a plane.
Josh should sue the league for suspending him for not doing anything wrong is one of the dumber takes you'll read about this. It's the people that think that are like free speech means you can say whatever you want with no repercussions. That's not how this works. It's not how this works. He has a responsibility to uphold a positive public image for the league. That this isn't a legality issue. 12% ownership coming into Desmond Bane. No one else above 3%. Not a great matchup here against Miami. I find all of the dudes from Memphis to be semi-interesting, but I'm not getting to anything here. I think the ownership matches. I'm a little surprised to see Bane get to 12, but he's good.
Yeah, he's good. Price tag came down a bit. I am surprised to see him get to 12, just given that you do have Garland, you have Russell in that price range. You have plenty of other guys as well. Jalen Green, Porter, just off the top of my head. There's a lot to get to at guard. So I am a little surprised to see him getting the 12%. If the slate started right now, I'd have around 6, which I'm perfectly fine with, but still a very high ceiling for him. You get the increased usage with Morant out. You get the increased playmaking opportunities as the backup point guard when Tyus isn't on the floor. So I understand it. I think he's fine.
Yeah, they're just a wildly uneventful team. Everybody's price is sort of just exactly where it should be at this point.
Yeah. They were priced up a bit. So you've seen it come down a little bit. Jackson went from 84 or 8,600 back down to 7,800. Tyus came down a little bit, but they're still pretty much correctly priced, like you said. I'd be getting, 2% Tyus, which is pretty much in line with the field. Jackson showing up 10%, which actually is over the field. I'm fine with that though. 7,800, increased usage, backup center minutes. I do like that he's just not getting any ownership here. I'm getting to a little bit of $5,300 Dylan Brooks at 2% as well. It's just a matter of, is his shot going to fall or not, but he's going to get them. And as long as people are going to keep not playing him with Morant out, I'm fine getting him at no ownership because the minutes are there. The upside is there. It's just a matter of, do the shots fall.
The opposite side of this game, I like a little bit more. Obviously, a big-time pace-up spot for Miami. I have been getting to too much Bam Adebayo on a pretty regular basis, which has hurt me every single night. I have to assume at one point in time this is going to help me out, but 10 to 15% ownership to Bam, Hero, Butler. There is nothing else here for Miami, but I think all three of those guys look pretty good in this spot.
Yeah, right there with you. Hero is showing up a good amount for me. I think I'm a little bit higher on him than most places I've looked. Yeah, around 20% for me. I don't have any real problem with that. He is kind of my version of Bam. Every time I play him, the guy burns me, but he's playing big minutes. There's no real reason to think that's going to change. He's only 6,900, so makes him look good. Butler at 8,700, if you can get there, great. Bam at 7,900 is one of the many mid-range centers on this slate that looks decent. So I don't have any problems with those three. We had Kevin Love getting a ton of ownership this morning. That disappeared, and I think it probably should have. He's likely giving you 20 to 22 minutes. He's cheap enough where he can have a good game, but just with the fact that he's not been playing fourth quarter minutes, it makes it so difficult for him to have a true ceiling game that you have to have. So to me, it's pretty much just getting to Hero, Butler, Bam.
I have a bunch of Bam, unsurprisingly. I've been touting this a lot, but I do actually have a bigger reason to like Bam today. Let me go to the data because I had him in my video today. Took over 8.5 rebounds this morning. Average is 9.5 rebounds a game just on his own. Pace up spot. But with no Adams around, with no Clark around, this is a 31st percentile offensive rebounding team, a 27th percentile defensive rebounding team. I think this is a big day for Bam on the glass. And if he can grab himself a couple putbacks, start to get a bit of a rhythm, I think this is the type of day where you could, if he goes off, he's going to go off with a double-double that has like 15 boards.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. Do you have any concerns about Love being there affecting his rebounding?
Not really. Given the way that they use him, he's not sort of like in the mix as much. It does certainly concerns me a little bit more that it's him and not Caleb Martin. But if it's, the standard issue 20 minutes of Love, I'm going to hopefully ignore it.
Yeah.
I just need him to be better.
Yeah. If the slate started right now, I'd have Hero the most, followed by Butler, followed by Bam.
See, I have Bam, Hero, Butler, but that's fine. It is not, I do not mind this stand because I've had so many of them as of late that now I just feel like I have to keep doing it until it happens.
Yeah. And I could get to a little bit more Bam. Right now I'm getting a ridiculous amount of Şengün. And one, I think I might have gone a little bit heavy on his projection. It's a spot where like I can walk it back a little bit, but also if he's out, that opens up that range as well.
Sure. All righty. We don't have anything else to say about Miami, right?
Nope.
That Kevin Love ownership came down, I guess.
Yeah, from 21 to like 2. So I'm now in line with the Kevin Love ownership at 2%.
Same. All right, let's keep it moving. Sacramento Kings, 1-point favorites in Chicago, 236 total. Very interesting game here. Trey Lyles picked up the game suspension, so he's going to be out today. Rashawn Holmes is also out. Not that that matters. We have single-digit ownership coming to basically everybody. It's 10 for Sabonis, just under 10 for Barnes, around 9 for Fox, 6 for Murray, Herter, Monk. When you look at Sacramento, how do you feel here? Because the total's obviously great. They're removing Trey Lyles from the rotation, and he has become a bigger part of the rotation as of late. How do you see this all shaking out for the Kings?
I think the Lyles suspension does make them look a little bit better. This morning, they weren't pulling any ownership, really. Now they just look a little bit better because you are taking those minutes out. There's still different ways that this rotation could go. My expectation is that you get a bit more playing time, or at least a little bit more stable playing time for Kevin Herter and Keegan Murray, that Kessler Edwards has a clear, like 20 to 22 minute role. And then Terrence Davis probably plays a handful of minutes. Sabonis and Fox are always going to be fine to get to. I don't have a strong take on them. It's just, they're very good. The prices are reasonable, but it does just make these cheaper guys look a bit better where you're getting 6 to 10% ownership on all of Murray, Barnes, Herter, Monk. I think that's very reasonable. I don't have any problem with that. Keegan Murray is like $4,200. Makes him look pretty good when you consider that if he plays well, he could easily play north of 30 minutes here. Malik Monk at 4,500, probably playing around 22 minutes. But again, if he plays well, could play more. Herter is a little bit more expensive, but shooting guard, small forward, so more flexibility there. Barnes is cheap at 4,800. I just like getting to these wings and kind of just rotating them through lineups.
Yeah, I'm getting to a bit more of Barnes and Murray. In particular, I'm very interested in Murray in this spot against Chicago. I don't know what the impact of Trey Lyles not being here will be, but I would not be surprised at all to see Murray play the minutes like Fox, like Barnes, like Sabonis, and just get them for this game instead of them massaging this in some way. The alternative in this case would be getting significantly more minutes to someone like Kessler Edwards, who today you probably need to project pretty aggressively to get to, since the two most important guys on the slate are pretty decent values in their own right. Do you find yourself wanting to get to Kessler Edwards with no Trey Lyles today?
No, I don't. For the reasons you said, it's just there's plenty of other spots to get to on the slate. I do think that there's a real chance he plays enough minutes to matter. Like if Murray plays poorly, like I'm expecting 20 to 22 minutes from Edwards, just like on average. If Murray plays poorly, you could easily get more Edwards minutes. We're 2 games removed from 26 minutes where he closed each half in a game where they weren't missing Trey Lyles. So the minutes are potentially there, but there's just other spots that I'm getting to today where I'm not going to end up really getting to Edwards.
Okie doke. I don't really have anything else here for Sacramento. Obviously, any pieces you really get from their main guys, you're going to feel pretty good about in a matchup against Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. I just walked back Şengün a little bit to try and get a better feel for what I'm doing. It got me a little bit more Bam. Still nothing crazy, though.
Okay. We go to Chicago. Standard stuff for the Bulls, except for we do have a Q tag on Alex Caruso. That could matter in the long run. We shall see. He is pulling about 10% ownership right now. Dalen Terry is in, if that matters to anybody. 13% ownership to Levine, another 12 to Vooch. We have 11 to Caruso right now, around 9 to DeRozan. I'm really not getting much here for Chicago, but I think all of those ownership numbers make sense.
Yeah, I think they do as well. I'm getting a ton of DeMar DeRozan right now, which is something that is probably going to change between now and lock. But Vooch, Levine, DeRozan, like it's a really good spot for all of these guys. I think Levine looks the best given shooting guard, small forward eligibility, and the fact that you have seen him take on a bit bigger usage role recently at the expense of DeRozan, but he is getting the most ownership here as well. Certainly a good spot for Vooch. DeRozan getting 8% ownership, I do think is interesting. The range of outcomes is still certainly similar to Levine and Vooch. He's cheaper than Levine. He has both. You can play him at both forward positions. So I'm getting to a ton of DeRozan right now. A little bit over the field on Vooch and actually not getting to as much Levine. I would like to get a bit more Levine and a bit less DeRozan, but I think it's a very good spot for all 3 of those guys.
I got like 6% of DeRozan, basically the same on Levine, basically the same on Vooch. Let's talk through the Caruso thing, though. What happens if he's out?
I don't know who they're going to start. You could see Dosunmu move into the starting lineup. You could see White move into the starting lineup. You could see Patrick Williams move into the starting lineup. Whoever it is becomes basically a Caruso type value play where you're not overly confident in their minutes. You're not overly confident in their production because they're still going to be playing minutes alongside Levine, Vooch, and DeRozan, but they're just going to be cheap. If you get a $3,900 Patrick Williams starting against the Kings and likely playing 28 to 30 minutes, there's going to be some value there. If you get a $3,300 White starting, even though you don't expect a ton of point per minute production, you expect increased playing time, and there's going to be some value there as well. Even if he doesn't start, if Caruso's out, it certainly makes you a little bit more comfortable going to like 22 to 24 minutes off the bench for White as opposed to 20, 21.
Yeah, if it's Patrick Williams, I think it starts to. I assume that's who it would be. Like that would be that. If I needed to make that assumption before the lineup came out, I would be assuming that it's Patrick Williams that gets the start. At which point, probably looks pretty good. Let's see, 1,724 minutes so far this season in 59. He's averaging 29 minutes a start. I mean, that's going to be what, 23-ish fantasy points for him, something in that neighborhood. Good enough as a point per dollar guy with an MPE against Sacramento for sure.
Yeah.
Like, is he, if Patrick Williams starts, is he the best play for Chicago?
No, I mean, I still think it's one of the main 3 guys.
Okay. Fair. Keep an eye out for the Caruso news. I don't have anything else. Do you?
Nope.
Prize Picks, folks. 1, hit the like button. 2, go sign up for Prize Picks. Link in the description of this one. And here's the biggie. This is the easiest part that I could talk about. 1, you get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum as long as you follow that link in the description of this video or what will eventually pop up in chat. And 2, you get up to $100 on your first deposit. We've got plenty of Prize Picks data at Stokastic that can help you out. I put out a Prize Picks video 6 days a week that is absolutely smashing right now. 33 and 14 since last Sunday. Just putting up dub after dub after dub. So I hope you're watching those videos. They're on the Odd Shopper channel, by the way. For right now, I'm going to hit Adam with a couple fantasy score props. This is going to be based on what you would normally know as FanDuel scoring. So you're going to get 3 points for blocks, 3 points for steals. You lose a full point for turnovers. No bonuses for double doubles or triple doubles or anything like that. So let's hit up somebody that we talked about that's pulling a lot of ownership on DraftKings today. How do you feel about Darius Garland over under 38 fantasy points?
Over.
Yeah, I got him at 38.5. So it would be one that I would leave alone, but certainly happy to get there. Who else would be fun? All right, my boy, the guy that I'm pretty heavy on today and most days, Bam Adebayo, over under 37.5 fantasy points.
Over.
Yeah, I've got that one way over, but that should surprise absolutely no one.
It does not.
Let's see. Who else looks interesting? Let's go to the big man, Joel Embiid. We'll go to Philly, 52.5.
Way over.
Yeah, same. I've got that by 4 points. So if you're playing on Prize Picks today, I think going and grabbing a Joel Embiid over on 52.5 is a decision you should make pretty quickly. And you're putting together a parlay card here. So if you put 5 together on one card, you can net up to 10x your entry fee. But if you only get 4 of them right, you'll still get 2x. If you get 3 of them right, you still get a little bit of your money back. I believe it's 0.4. So it's not as if you just have to go the full way. You can get up to 25x if you go 6 for 6. Let's do one final game, one final prop for everybody. That'll give out 4. Who would be a good one? Let's go. Since he's pulling a little bit of ownership, it'll be interesting to talk about him. Lamar Stevens, 18.5.
Slight under, but pretty much the correct line, I think.
Yeah, I got him at 19.1. That is not one that I would want to take advantage of. So that's Prize Picks, folks. Again, free month of Stokastic and up to $100 on your deposit. Click those links in the chat or in the description. We go to the big one now for today. We're going to have a lot to talk about here. I'm finding this one fascinating. The Los Angeles Lakers are 3.5-point favorites in Houston, 231 total. If you ever want to know how bad Houston is, no AD, no LeBron, and the Lakers are still favored on the road. We have massive ownership coming into D'Angelo Russell, 33% right now, 20% coming into Rui, another 13 coming into Gabriel, another 10-ish coming into Malik Beasley. We'll start here. What is your assumption for the starting lineup for the Los Angeles Lakers today?
Yeah, and this is huge. It's going to greatly impact what I have to say about the Lakers and where I'm getting right now. But there's several ways this could go. My expectation is Schroeder, Russell, Beasley, Brown, Vanderbilt. And so I am getting a hell of a lot of Dennis Schroeder at 0 projected ownership and no Rui at 20% projected ownership. If Rui were to start and Schroeder comes off the bench, then clearly I'm taking minutes away from Schroeder and giving them to Rui.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a great feel here. I didn't get to Wenyen Gabriel. I gave him 23 minutes. If he's the starter, I don't know how much higher I'll go, but it's not like he would start showing up everywhere for me. He's a good play, but not a great point per dollar play, or not a good point per minute guy in general. So that helps. Rui, I'm light on. I'll just say it, I'm light on everybody. So let's talk about D'Angelo Russell here. Expectation for minutes.
34.
Okay. Obviously, the price works, the MPE works, the matchup works. How much are we expecting him to do here on the floor? Do you want Schroeder to start, given Russell's ownership?
I don't really care. Like, I think
Okay.
I think it's going to be the D'Angelo Russell show either way.
Okay. What were you willing to go to from a usage perspective? Because this is, I think this is what's slowing me down.
I didn't do it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Shouldn't have asked. I went to 26. It feels like that's where I'm light because I'm just not getting him like the field. I barely have him. He's 33% owned. It's scaring the absolute hell out of me. I think he grades out well. But
yeah, I mean,
I just don't know what to do here. It's tripping me up bad.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where I end up, assuming that we do get a Lakers starting lineup in time. Because like right now I'm getting around the field on Russell at 30%, but I'm getting more Schroeder because he's not getting any ownership whatsoever. If we get a starting lineup and Schroeder's in it, then obviously that ownership is going to come up, not as high as Russell, but to some point where I don't have Schroeder grading out as one of the most under-owned players on the slate. And it's going to make me get less Schroeder and then probably get more Russell as a result. So I'm perfectly fine getting to Russell here. It's a great matchup. There's just there's not many places for usage to go on this team either. And it's also not like he's scoring dependent. He's going to get assists as well. But when you think about guys that, can cut into usage, Malik Beasley can shoot and, score a bit. Rui can take on some usage. Dennis Schroeder can take on some usage. Nobody else on this team does much of anything. Jared Vanderbilt's not stepping up and playing a huge role offensively. Austin Reeves can play a little bit bigger role, but he's not going to do a whole lot on offense. Troy Brown Jr. is not going to do much. Gabriel's not going to do much. Lonnie Walker can, but he's probably not getting enough minutes to really matter. I don't really know how this offense runs without D'Angelo Russell being the clear number one.
Yeah, and that's where I have him. Like, I gave him 26% usage. I gave Schroeder 25, and I think that those guys are probably pretty comparable for today. I got Beasley up to 23 based on just digging into some rates. I did get Reeves to 20. I got Rui at 22. I got Lonnie Walker at 23. I think it's just a lot of guys that are like slightly above average in a usage spot here. And I'm really nervous to just let it rip for Russell. The problem is he's facing Houston, and it's an incredible, incredible spot. That's it. If you're playing cash games, you're playing D'Angelo Russell. I don't want to talk anybody off of him in terms of like being a good play, but at that ownership and given that price and his role, I assume you're getting him in most cash games.
Yeah, I would think so. And because like the Schroeder thing is just messing up like everything for me right now. I think he should be, if he starts, I think he should be like 10 to 11% owned.
Yeah.
And so it's not like I think he's some great, amazing play if he starts, but, certainly a good play. And it's just that right now at no ownership, that's just moving him into like all of these lineups. If he starts, I would expect him to end up being around 8 to 10% owned. And then I'm going to probably get around 10%.
I assume I'm going to end up giving Russell an extra minute and get him to 34. That seems like the most likely scenario. I probably should have done that from the beginning, because that's what he was going to play this most recent timeout. So I think I'm a minute light, at which point I assume I'm going to come in light on Russell, but not the basically full fade that I have right now, which isn't fun.
Yeah. Are you getting the Beasley?
No, 5%.
Yeah, I'm getting a ridiculous amount of him too. Like maybe I need to walk him back a little bit. I gave him 30 minutes. You could certainly make the case for like 28, but
I gave him 29.
Yeah, I mean he played 31 minutes yesterday. And it's just like I have a hard time cutting too many minutes away from him because of them. They need scoring. And it really, like, if I cut minutes away from him, it's just like, okay, I'm giving more minutes to Lonnie Walker, or I guess Rui. Like, I have Rui at 24 minutes. I think we have like 28.
I have 28.
But again, it's just I could also do that. I could go to 28 on Rui and just take 4 more away from Lonnie Walker, and that works. I have a hard time getting below 30 minutes on Beasley.
Yeah, I think that I probably want to give Beasley another minute as well, get him up to 30. So these are some of the changes that I'm just slowly but surely making.
Yeah, like I was initially at 32 on Beasley, and I walked it back to 30.
I don't think that's crazy either. I really don't.
Like, it shouldn't surprise anybody if Beasley comes out here and plays 34, 35 minutes. So, like,
no.
32, I think, is a reasonable projection. 30 is, like, as low as I'm willing to go. If I go to 28, it's basically saying that I think he's as likely to play 26 minutes as he is 30. And if this game's competitive and he's not in foul trouble, I don't know how the hell Malik Beasley's playing 26 minutes.
I agree with you there. Anybody else we should be talking about here? Jared Vanderbilt, Gabriel, Reeves, I guess.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt looks decent. Price tag came up a little bit, which is always concerning, just because he's not the type of player that can step into more usage. But it does help to solidify his playing time if he avoids foul trouble. I have him at 28 minutes. He's somebody that typically I project, like 24 to 26. So I gave him a couple extra minutes with Davis out. If he starts at center, that should help his rebounding as well. Certainly does give him the ability for more scoring just through offensive rebounding and putbacks, which is pretty much where his offense comes from. So at 6% ownership, I do like Vanderbilt, even though I don't expect, a huge bump in usage or anything.
Okay. How much do you think the impact of the starting lineup, other than for Schroeder for you, is going to make a difference? Like if it's Gabriel, do you expect to be getting a bunch of Gabriel?
I think I'll get a decent amount just because he has power forward eligibility at 3,700. I'd probably go to like 24 minutes or so. Right now I have, I think 20. I basically just have him backing up Vanderbilt. So yeah, like it would make me get to some, whereas right now I don't have any. So that's another spot. Like right now he's getting 14% ownership. The way I have him projected, I'm just not going to get there. But if he's starting, then I'm going to give him more minutes. So him and Rui are the two where like right now I don't really see it, but depending what the lineup is, I could end up getting there.
Anything else we should touch on for the Lakers?
No.
We go to Houston, and on the opposite side here, we still have a big chunk of news. We don't know the status of Alperen Şengün. He is questionable. The trickle-down effect there is massive because that unlocks someone like Tari Eason, I would imagine, at least. Interesting game to not have Şengün, considering the Lakers don't actually have a center either. 10 to 15% ownership coming into Jalen Green, KPJ, and to Kenyon Martin. I've got a couple interesting things to talk about here. What do you just like for Houston in general? I guess we'll start with assuming Alperen Şengün plays.
Assuming he plays, I like Şengün the most because he's projected for like 4% ownership. Maybe that comes up a little bit, but I've said it before. Like I think there's this weird narrative that Şengün's minutes are volatile because Houston is tanking. Houston just played their entire starting lineup nearly 40 minutes to pull out a 2-point win over the Celtics. That's not what a tanking team does. And when you look at Şengün's volatile minutes, they're really easily explained by either a blowout, Şengün being in foul trouble, or I think there was one game that really scared people because they were like, oh, they didn't bring Şengün back for the fourth because like they don't care about winning. It was a game where Houston went on a crazy run to get back into it against, I think it was Portland, and they just didn't bring Şengün back. He wasn't on the floor when the run started. They didn't bring him back. But you're seeing in most competitive games when he's not in foul trouble, he's still playing 32 to 34 minutes. He's 7K in a good matchup. I really like getting him in tournaments if he's good to go.
Yeah, I gave him 29 minutes. I could probably make a case to go to 30.
I had 30 when I got a ton. Then I cut him back to 28, and I'm still getting well over the field.
Yeah, I have 14% of him right now. The only limiting factor for me is the fact that I just have so much Bam. I would happily take a... He is?
Yep.
Well, there you go. Perfect timing. Appreciate you on that one, Mr. Şengün, for making this conversation be relevant. So good shit. I like Şengün. I assume his ownership comes up. I mean, I would have liked that to happen at 7:30 because I'd rather keep the ownership down, but it's not going to be climbing all that high. Good spot though.
That's for sure. Like it's just not going to climb that high because people are afraid to play him for made up reasons.
What else do you like here? Because I'm pretty fond of Jalen Green and KPJ in this spot.
I like them both. I'm not getting much right now, but this is another situation where like, it's fine to talk about where we're getting, who we're getting to right now, but kind of take it with a grain of salt because like if I'm getting as much with all the Schroeder I'm getting right now, it makes it so I can't get to as much Green and Porter. But once we get a Lakers starting lineup, that Schroeder ownership is either my Schroeder ownership is going to come down because either he's going to be more popular or he's not going to be starting and I'm going to lower his minutes. So I do like getting to Green. I like getting to Porter. I don't have it right now, but by the time we get to lock, I probably will. Same goes for KJ Martin at 5,200, playing big minutes, good matchup against the Lakers. I like all four of those guys, Porter, Martin, Green, Şengün. Jabari Smith at 6,800 is a tough sell at that price. He has been playing out of his mind recently, though, and it has led to more minutes. Şengün being in is a bit of a negative, though, just because you should still get some minutes at the 5, but you're not going to get all of the minutes at the 5. So that typically is not a great thing for production.
Yeah, right now I'm getting into like the mid 20s on Green and Porter. I don't mind that at all, given this matchup. Without having Anthony Davis anchoring the center spot, like this is a really good outlet for Houston. What about the ownership right now at Kenyon Martin Jr.? 16.5% feels a tad high for a guy that like has no role change whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. This is one where I don't know where I'll end up, but my lineups kind of did exactly what I would want them to. If the slate started right now with the information we have, I would have like 2% KJ Martin and 16% Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks is the same price and 2% owned, and KJ Martin is 16%. So just a spot where I think he's very comparable to other plays, but I do get why he projects a little bit better just because he is playing the Lakers, coming off a game where he played huge minutes. But again, that was also a game where Şengün was out.
Right. Any Tari Eason for you?
Here, he's still fine in large field tournaments. He's not getting any ownership. There is still a path to him playing plenty of minutes. I projected him for 26, even
Same.
with Şengün in. So, he's still a good point per minute guy, 5,300. And if you get foul trouble or injury to Şengün, to Martin, to Jabari Smith, Tari Eason is the next guy up because the way that they're running their lineups now, you kind of can just get him out there with any of those groupings. So I like the upside that he gives, but it's not a spot you're prioritizing.
Anxious to see who's going to be the coach of this team next year because there's going to be a lot of young talent to try to be molded and potentially James Harden. So we shall see. I got nothing else for Houston. Very interesting game. Boston Celtics, 5-point favorites in Minnesota, 233 total. We're up to 325 likes, 2,500 people in here. Let's run that number even higher. Let's get up to 400 and change. I guess that would be fun. So for Boston, nothing to talk about. Jaylen Brown's in. Time Lord's still out. They need to get his ass back because I want them at full strength. I want to see what that looks like in the playoffs, and he's really good. 15% ownership coming into Derek White. That's the high mark for Boston. 12 to Jason Tatum. I'm going to Brown over Tatum, but not by anything major. I don't have much of Boston, but I am getting a little Brown, Tatum, Smart, White. What are you doing here?
Not getting to much of anything, which kind of surprised me. I like the matchup and certainly like getting to Tatum and Brown where you can. One thing I liked this morning when we had Tatum projected for less ownership was that when you talk about the pay up options on this slate, it's pretty much either center, point guard, other than Tatum. And we know that there's less opportunity cost typically at these forward positions, but his ownership's come up a little bit. I don't have any issue with him. I just am having trouble getting to him there. I like the $9,100 price tag on Jaylen Brown, but I'm still not getting a lot of that either. It does scare me that I'm not really getting to the Derek White, Marcus Smart, Horford, Brogdon group because there's a really good chance that at least one guy from that group has a big game for their salary. They're just all priced like $400 to $500 less than they probably should be. And it doesn't stand out as a glaring misprice from a median projection standpoint. But when you think about the range of outcomes, I think these prices are just skewed a little bit more towards like the floor than the ceiling. And it just becomes, it's pretty easy for one of these guys to just go out there and, 6 to 7X without even having a crazy good game.
Most I got of anybody is Jaylen Brown at 10%. So it's just scattered for me. I assume it becomes a Brogdon day. He's the guy that I don't have. I just don't have anything else to say about Boston. I wish it were more interesting. It's just not. They're at full strength.
Wouldn't be upset if I got to more of them between now and lock.
Yeah, you always like getting something against Minnesota. Speaking of Minnesota, lots of question marks here. Q-tag on Gobert, Q-tag on Austin Rivers, Q-tag on Naz Reid. Clearly important Q tags, assuming all of those guys are in right now. 15% ownership going to Gobert, 6 going to Anthony Edwards. Let's just start there. Obviously a terrible matchup for Ant, but this is a 5-point line. This should be a competitive game, 37 minutes, 9,400. He's the guy that I like the most here for Minnesota.
Yeah, it should be a competitive game. Tough matchup. I'm not getting to much of Minnesota at all, but I understand the upside argument for Edwards. He's low owned. I would rather, if I'm going to that price range and position, I would rather take Jaylen Brown on the other side. He's a little bit cheaper. He's playing similar minutes. He's got the better end of the matchup. So I would rather go there, but I'm just not really getting to that price. It doesn't seem like. At least at their positions, but clearly a high ceiling for Edwards. 15% ownership to Gobert at 7,400 if he's in is fine. He's produced better with Mike Conley. I am a little concerned. Last game, even without Naz Reid, you once again saw like 30 minutes from Gobert. Lost a minute or two to garbage time, but still kind of just seems like that random 37-minute game was a one-off. It, of course, coincided with the only slate that he's been popular in the last like 3 weeks. But it's just a little concerning to me. Like, I think projecting him for 30 makes sense. He certainly can go play more, but we haven't really seen that rotation all that often recently. It makes me wonder, like, why Gobert is getting 5 times the ownership of Alperen Şengün.
It makes no sense to me. I mean, the way you were just talking about how like your sheet is working the way that you want it to. It's working the way that I wanted to too. I'm not really getting to much Gobert. I am getting to Şengün. I've basically flip-flopped those two guys, and that certainly works for me.
Yeah, same boat for me. Again, if it started right now, I would have basically no Gobert, and I would have now like 18% Şengün.
I think this is a really good spot for Boston. They are a team that doesn't really take a lot of shots at the rim. They don't take a lot of shots in the short mid-range. Like, this is a team that's trying to get up a ton of threes, and I think there's a lot of benefit there. Like, if you're just going to let Rudy Gobert chill, like, it doesn't matter. They're not really trying to attack in that way. So, fascinating spot here for Boston. Caruso out. Is that legit?
Yeah, there's going to be value there. Don't know for sure who yet.
Yeah. Keep your eyes peeled on that starting lineup. All right. One last time, hit that like button. We should get up over 400. We got 2,675 people in here right now. We got to talk about the lineup generator. This is the perfect show for it. I've talked about it on my videos earlier today, and I think it's essential that you guys hear this little spiel because it's less than $5 for the first week. You will spend $4.48 in way worse ways than trying out our lineup generator. We generate thousands of lineups on the back end. We throw all the ones that we don't like just directly into the garbage. We present the rest of them to you. You can click save and keep that lineup, or click discard, and another one will just pop up immediately for you. Whether you want to run contrarian lineups, balance lineups, chalky lineups, lock players, swap players, exports to CSV, we have all of that functionality, but we're handling the construction part on the back end for you. You can see the projections, the ownership, the optimal rates. All of the data is there for you. This is the perfect trial. Worst case scenario, you're out 448, you wash your hands of it in a week. You don't have to think about it again. But I think this is going to be a tool that improves your DFS play. We've seen plenty of general testimonials of people using this tool and printing some money. Brajal, what's up? You've seen it. These people are in the Stokastic Hall of Fame now because of our lineup generator. You can take that test run, $4.48 for the first week. 2 games to go. And now we get to start talking about the big chalk for today. Dallas Mavericks, 5-point favorites in San Antonio, 227 total. No Luka Doncic. Doesn't seem like we're getting Kyrie Irving today. Q tag on Tim Hardaway, Q tag on Christian Wood, doubtful tag on Markieff Morris. Lots to still wait for here, but let's just talk about the easiest thing you're going to do, at least in my eyes today, and that is 71% owned Jaden Hardy at 5,500. Any disagreements? Because he's in everything I have.
I have less than 71% right now. I have a ton still, but yeah, he's a really good play. 5,500. The only real difference here between this slate and last time he played at 4K, I had like 98%. Yeah. Is there's not as many alternatives around 4K. At 5,500, you can find other ways to build a lineup. And if Jaden Hardy just goes out there and scores like 30 fantasy points, you can beat that. So it is easier for him to fail now than it was. But given the playing time we've seen from him, and given that the Mavs have nothing offensively without Kyrie and without Luka, he has to take on a big role. He has to play big minutes, barring foul trouble, injury, whatever. So yeah, clearly one of the best plays on the slate. He's showing up as the top play for me in terms of, chances of being in an optimal lineup. So I think he's over-owned. I think he's also the best play on the slate.
Yep. I legitimately have him in everything right now. I'm not surprised by that. It takes a pretty aggressive failure here because I've got him projected way higher than even just
actually, like second best play on the slate.
Probably the play you feel the most comfortable with, though. I'm assuming we're going to get to what I assume is your best play, but like that one's a crapshoot.
Yeah, but he's also 3,100.
Fair. It would shock me if Jaden Hardy doesn't play 34 plus minutes today. Whereas it's the Spurs. We'll get there. What else do we do here with Dallas? Because this matchup is awesome. 17% ownership coming into Reggie Bullock makes me sick. 19 coming into Tim Hardaway. 16 coming into McKinley Wright. We start there and talk about how that shouldn't exist. Very little coming into Josh Green, which I think is kind of interesting. What's the next best thing for Dallas?
Tim Hardaway, if he's in.
Okay.
I think it's Tim Hardaway or Josh Green.
Agreed.
We've seen massive usage the last couple of games from Josh Green. And while that's not really his game, when you think about who else is on this team, it kind of needs to be. Jaden Hardy's going to take on a big role offensively. Tim Hardaway, if he's in, is going to take on a big role offensively. And I mean, Christian Wood, for whatever minutes he's on the floor, if he's in, will take on a big role offensively. But other than that, there is nothing on this team. Maxey can stand in the corner and shoot threes. So can Reggie Bullock. But these guys aren't capable of doing anything offensively. And you've seen Josh Green take on a much bigger role over those last couple of games in terms of usage. 31.7% last game. That is a game where Hardaway missed a little bit of time during the game with an injury. 25.3% the game before that. So you're seeing not only increased playing time for Josh Green, but a lot of usage. And it's an increased price tag, but still, I think, well-deserved.
3,500, point guard only. Played 21 and 22 minutes in the past 2 games. McKinley Wright chalk-ish?
I don't get it. I played him like I had like 15% of him last slate because he was 1% owned and like 3,100. And if he were 1% owned again, I would certainly be getting to him. But there's no way he should be 16% owned. For 2, there's no way he's 30% to be optimal.
No.
Like that's gonna just change between now and lock, and it should get to very low ownership and be a situation where if you want to play him at low ownership and try and get lucky, sure. It's not a slate that I think you really need to do that. And it's certainly not a slate where he should be pulling 16% ownership.
Yeah, I got to 2%. Even that feels like 8. It's just random. He's fine. Like, solid enough point per minute playing backup run.
Yeah, I mean, I got like 8%. That's perfectly fine to me.
Agreed. I'm getting to more Josh Green than Hardaway. I'm happy to go either direction, just sort of flip-flopping those guys. Reggie Bullock, who's whatever. Is there any why does Christian Wood continue to maintain these salaries?
I don't know. I also don't know how I'm getting. I don't know how I'm getting 10% of him in 19 minutes.
That makes me happier to hear that you're doing that. The worst case scenario for me right now, and obviously the extra worst case scenario for you would be like Christian Wood is now 4,900, and we have to have this like real conversation of how we're playing this guy that they seem to hate.
Oh, never mind.
Because that's the day they drop his price is the day that he's going to get the 29 minutes.
Yeah. The reason why, and this is going to change between now and lock also, the reason why I'm getting there is because I used our point per minute rates and we have him at 30 DraftKings points in 18 minutes. So it's, even though I only gave him 19 minutes, I ended up with like a 29 point projection. So that's going to change between now and lock. I'm not going to get the 6K Christian Wood.
All right. Yeah, I don't have him either. Anything else you want to say for Dallas?
No. I mean, I guess to reiterate your point, Christian Wood is going to have a blow-up game sooner or later, and the Spurs are certainly a spot it could happen. But there's nothing. The biggest concern I have, because it would make sense to me for them to play him more minutes with Luka and Kyrie out, just because like the thing, like he's a good offensive player. He's awful defensively. When the Mavs are healthy, you don't need to make that trade-off. You can just go to Maxey, who fits what they need better. When you don't have Luka or Kyrie, it makes a lot of sense to me that they would just say like, all right, we're going to give up a bunch of points, but we need to score and go to Christian Wood. But 2 games ago, when you had both Luka and Kyrie out and Wood was in, he still only played 15 or 16 minutes. So while I think that you could get more minutes, I don't think you can point to anything that definitively says like, oh yeah, that's what they're going to do.
I don't know why they're not playing him for every minute that Maxey's out there. Like that's the test case where you have the guy that can sort of be the 5, why he can be like the other, like just general roamer. I'd be taking my chances there. To me, that's the fit that I want to see. What does that spread out look like? But I don't know. I'm not the coach of Dallas. I got nothing else here.
Yeah, me either.
All right. 2 quick super chats. One from Eric. He said, Tatum and Hardy or PG-13 and Russell. It's got to be Tatum Hardy, right?
I feel like there's a third piece that you can that matters. Like I really like both of these pairings, but like I feel like there's probably something else in your lineup that would sway it for me. Like I don't feel strongly here. I'm gonna play. I'm probably gonna have a good amount of Paul George. I'm gonna have a lot of Russell. I'm not gonna have a lot of Tatum. I am gonna have a lot of Hardy. Yeah, I think that they're very close. There's probably like a third piece that you're getting to in one of those that would swing it.
And then Unreal Forever has a question about the starting center for the Spurs. Lucky for you, you could have saved yourself that one and just waited. San Antonio Spurs.
It's not like we know the answer anyway.
Yeah. 1, no clue. 2, Trey Jones available, Keldon Johnson available, Langford and McDermott both available. Q tag on Malachi Branham, which is oddly important. No Sohan, Collins, Vassell, or Kem Birch, which sneaky is also important. Charles Bassey going to be done for the foreseeable future. 56% ownership coming into Sandro Mamukelashvili. Let's have the conversation now. Is he starting? Is he not starting? Neither one of us know.
Yeah, my guess is that he does. I have no idea. My guess for a Spurs starting lineup right now is Devontae Graham, Malachi Branham, Keita Bates-Diop, Keldon Johnson, Mamukelashvili. If he starts, he most likely ends up being my highest owned player. It's just a $3,100 center, and even projecting him for like 24 minutes, which certainly could be on the low end, is going to get him into a ton of lineups.
I got 96% of him right now at 24 minutes. I assume I'm having like 60+% of him, even if we don't get him as a starter. All bets are off for this lineup today for me, other than I assume it's Keldon Johnson, and then we'll rotate around that. Let's talk about Keldon Johnson, though, because I don't think there's anything else to say about Mamukelashvili. He's a solid play, might start, and he's 3,100. Like, there's not anything else to really add here, assuming he is starting. So $6,700 Keldon Johnson, 28% owned. I like him a lot.
Yeah, so do I.
Is a lot too much?
No, he's one of my highest owned. He's one of my highest owned guys right now. He's the only guy on this team that I have any level of confidence in his minutes. And again, it's still the Spurs in a game. Like, they can do whatever they want. But we've seen Keldon Johnson play normal minutes when he's available. Assuming he's starting and not on any sort of minutes limit, I expect around 32 minutes from him. You're going to get tons of usage. There's no Devin Vassell. There's no Jeremy Sohan. The offense, there's no Zach Collins. Like, the offense is going to run through Keldon Johnson. You're going against a Dallas team that cannot defend anybody. Keldon, and he's pretty cheap at 6,700. So I'm getting tons of Keldon Johnson, again, assuming he's in the starting lineup. He's the only guy I projected north of 26 minutes from this team.
We got to deal with this one. Where are you landing on Gorgeous Dong?
I gave him like 12 minutes. I think that the first thing is assuming he's not starting. The first thing is you have to just accept that this is a huge crapshoot. Like, from a basketball standpoint, there's no need for Gorgie Jang to play in this game. They are playing against a Dallas team that has Dwight Powell playing 18 to 20 minutes and then stretch fives, whether that's Maxey or Christian Wood. There's no need. It's not like they have, a center out there that they need to throw Gorgie Jang onto the floor for. From a development standpoint, they have plenty of young guys that they can get minutes for, whether it's Mamukelashvili, whether it's Dominic Barlow. There's tons of guys that they would probably prefer to give minutes to over Jang. But then, on the other hand, who knows if Pop really likes Gorgie Jang and is going to reward him with 16 minutes off the bench here. Like, there's no way to know stuff like that because San Antonio can do whatever the hell they want. But my best guess is that he's not getting enough minutes for me to want to play him in DFS.
We're on the same page. Who else do you want to play from San Antonio?
So Keldon and Mamukelashvili are the two top ones for me, assuming they're starting. I didn't get to much of anything else. If you get to, a little bit of Devontae Graham, Trey Jones, Doug McDermott, those guys are fine. But to me, those are the clear priorities, and then everything else falls off. All
right.
And like, Graham has a ceiling. My concern is just with Trey Jones back that you see that like 26-minute give or take game. And on this slate, I just have a hard time thinking that's getting it done.
This is where the Branham news.
SMP said it. If Trey Jones starts, then I'm interested in Trey Jones.
Yeah. I got a little interest in Trey Jones. The Branham news matters a lot for some of these guys then too, because then we're freeing up like 26 minutes to another, like, to potentially to more Trey Jones, potentially to more to Graham. Yeah, to Wesley. Like, I still have Wesley in, but he'll still go a little bit more.
18 minutes. Whereas I think you can play Wesley if Branham's out.
Agreed. Olrat hit us with the super chat that is not going to really have an answer for him. If you use randomness today, would you go to 10 or 100%? This is a completely 100% individual setting. It's like asking like how much salt and pepper you like on your food.
Yeah, and I certainly wouldn't change it by slate.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I have different randomness for every player.
Same. Look, this is just one of those things that you need to run the crunches and look at the lineups and see what it's giving you. There is no answer for something like that. Let's close this one out. Final game, late night hammer, live before lock coming up next. Not a lot to talk about here. Warriors 2.5-point dogs in LA against the Clippers, 237 total. Interesting late night hammer, but like it normally is for Golden State, particularly now today with Kuminga back in. Highest owned guy is Draymond Green at 9%. I'm barely getting to it. I hate never getting to the Warriors. It feels like always one of these days Curry or Thompson goes nuts, but I don't have much here. Wouldn't mind getting to Steph Curry, obviously.
Yeah, wouldn't mind getting to Curry. I would expect to get to Clay before I get to Curry, but right now I'm not getting to either one. The only guy that I would have if the slate started right now is Draymond, and it's not like he's not my favorite play from Golden State. He's just the easiest to get into lineups because he's power forward eligible. He's only 6,100. He just sort of fits in as a last piece, but not excited about it. He's the only guy really pulling any ownership here at 9%. I do think the shooting guard small forward eligibility and the relatively inexpensive $7,500 price tag on Clay is pretty appealing, but it's just, also from a roster construction standpoint, when you think about that position, I think you're either paying down to, like, in my case right now, Dylan Brooks, in other people's case, KJ Martin, paying down to like Tim Hardaway, who's a little bit cheaper, going down to Reggie Bullock, or going up to like Jason Tatum. So I think it's kind of just an awkward price point also.
All righty. Then we go to the Clippers, who I guess we kind of have to talk about. 24% ownership on the dot coming into Leonard and George. No ownership coming into anybody else. I think Marcus Morris is getting slept on a little bit at 3,800 power forward eligibility. No ownership. Played 30 and a half minutes on Saturday. If he's playing 30 minutes, $3,800 Marcus Morris is an interesting option for value. How are you looking at Kawhi and Paul George?
I like them both. I think Kawhi looks a little bit better. I would actually right now. So we have a combined 50% ownership going to those two, or 48% ownership going to those two. I have, if the slate started right now, a combined 46% ownership, but I'm getting 3 times as much Leonard as I am George. That's a spot that I'm, perfectly fine with, just because Leonard does project a bit better. The pricing is very, very close. And so if they are going to be the same ownership, I'm just going to get to a little bit more Kawhi, but that's not to talk anybody off of George. We did see him actually play more minutes than Kawhi last game. Typically, Kawhi's been playing more minutes, but I think you are going to see that sort of just go back and forth on a game-by-game basis now. For a while, they were pseudo-limiting Paul George, to like 34 minutes, while Kawhi was playing 38. I think now you're just going to see some games Kawhi plays 36, George plays 40. Some games you'll see vice versa. If there's ever a big ownership difference, I just would take the lower owned guy. But with similar ownership and similar price points, I'm going to end up getting the more Kawhi.
I got 42% Kawhi. I'm taking a pretty big stand here. Like it against the Warriors as well. Still getting to 17% Paul George. Thoughts on Marcus Morris, and then we got to go.
He's fine. I gave him 28 minutes. I don't feel super confident. Two other spots that I would mention, I'm not getting right now, but I think are kind of interesting. Zubac's at 5,300 coming off back-to-back games. He's played 27 minutes. He's averaged 26 minutes per game with Mason Plumlee. Not any sort of great play, but not getting any ownership. And then Terrence Mann at 3,300 certainly has a path to playing 24 minutes or so.
There it is, folks. Good luck tonight. Don't go anywhere. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. All those super chats that just came in, Live Before Lock will hit them, so don't go anywhere. Greg, Neil, breaking it all down to 7:30 plus a bonus half hour. Thanks to Prize Picks. We're out of here. Peace.
Yo, it's that time of week again where we're inducting you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame and giving away some monthly subscriptions to everything on our site, all of our tools right here, just by rocking the Stokastic avatar, finishing top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweeting your wins to @Stokastic Hall of Fame. You're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. You're getting inducted right here. All you got to do is go to stokastic.com/avatar. Rock that avatar wherever it is you play. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame, and we're in business. Just like Ryan did. How do I go about getting that free membership? Thanks for this content, guys. Congrats, man. $4,800 win right there in the fadeaway. Love to see that. 3rd place. And then, how about Arnold? He was on here twice last week. He's on here again this week with a much bigger win than both of those. In the 60K mini max, boom. Thanks, guys. 1st place in the mini max. $3,600 going to Arnold. Congrats, man. Keep that heater going. And Mitchell King was on here last week as well. Hit another one. Moved up to the $1 tournament this time. See, you just keep moving up, man. Then you get those free tools, right? You get the free month, and then you can use them wherever it is you play, no matter the stakes. $2,000 in the end one. Congrats, Mitchell. Keep that going. An ugly 8 game. We've seen him on here plenty of times. Thanks to the great content, Stokastic NBA, and timely news from, yes, the news guy, DFS. Even I can win a free month of Stokastic Platinum. Congrats, dude. And how about Gary Encarnacion? Missed 1st place by just 1 rebound. I'll take it. $400, 2nd place in the NBA shop. followed up by Samuel Johnson. Had a nice evening. Again, the mini max. And remember, doesn't matter if you're playing $1 entry, quarter, nickel, $20 entry, as long as it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. That is literally all that matters. And you're rocking the Stokastic avatar. Make sure to update it too. Get that new fresh one that you see up here. Samuel Johnson, $283 in the mini max, first place. And then you have Paco for OU, $250. My dedication to following the Stokastic Live Before Lock shows pays off. Not a monster score, but not a bad takedown for a quarter investment. There it is. Again, $250 on a quarter. Congrats, man. And Skimmer to wrap this one up. Thanks to Greg Ehrenberg and Neil Orfield for the LBL last-minute advice for third place. Appreciate you. LFG, 4K daily dollar, third place, $125. Congrats to all of you. Remember, download the avatar. Use it wherever it is you play. Hit us up. It's Stokastic HOF. And get that free month. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Let us.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock show. And we got an interesting one here. As you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored by Prize Picks. We've got Gamer Neil here. Neil comes in many forms. There's the flannel god himself, Neil. There's XFL fan Neil. There's beer mug Neil. And now I've got a new one. This is Gamer Neil, because Neil's microphone broke right before the show. And he's got the headset on now. He's ready to game and ready to break down the NBA DFS slate. Neil, what is happening with you?
I mean, you say this is new, but this is exactly the headset that I used all of last year until Stokastic sent me a new microphone. So you and I have done plenty of shows with this headset on, but I'm really excited about this slate. So Greg, to set this up, yesterday, Adam and I are doing the show. I was hosting. We're going through the Spurs, and I say to Adam, I see that one of my favorite basketball players of all time, Gorgui Dieng, I noticed the name on the Spurs. So I ask Adam, do you think Gorgui Dieng has a single usable fantasy score left in his career, like one game where he's going to be usable in DFS? And Adam looked at him and said, he's playing behind Mamu. I don't think he has any useful games left. Then I opened today to do my article, and I see Gorgui Dieng had the second best value score on the entire slate. Now we've dropped him down to 12 minutes. So probably just to like tamper my enthusiasm a little bit. But I'm still excited. I'm still probably going to play some Gorgui Dieng. I've got a few props here just to show you my Gorgui Dieng bobblehead. I was a big enough fan at one point. I bought the Gorgui Dieng jersey number, National Treasures rookie patch auto.
Nice.
One of my few, probably worth $150. Yeah, I think I probably paid $500 for it. It's probably worth $1.50 at this point. But not worth selling for that much. So I'm
pumped. You might be able to get $2 if his mom is in the market. Also, quick question, because I'm very observant. Were you trying to fix your microphone with glue? Because I'm looking over your left shoulder and it looks like there's a bottle of Elmer's glue or something there.
I actually yesterday was cleaning my office quite a bit and found this glue bottle in a box. So it's just happens to be out because it was in a random box that I was cleaning out.
Yeah, it also works poorly as lube, but whatever. Lots of different options for glue, different uses for it. And already I'm looking at this. We've got a whole bunch of super chats waiting for us because the fellas on the last show, they were too cool for you guys. They couldn't answer your super chats. So we actually got 5 of them outstanding to answer from the last show. Going to start answering those right away to open up the show. Jorge Jacomi wants to know, who are our 3 favorite plays for a 20 max tournament on DraftKings? So I'll look up right now what I have for some of my exposures. And all right, so one for sure is going to be Jaden Hardy for me. Again, I know he's popular and the price point has gone up, but I don't think it's enough based on what we've seen out of Jaden Hardy to this point. So Hardy the other day ended up playing 41 minutes. And in those 41 minutes, had a 34% usage rate, scored 47.5 fantasy points. This is like the homeless man's version of Kyrie Irving / Luka Doncic, but this is all the Mavs have left to handle the ball right now. And we've got Christian Wood questionable today. We've got Tim Hardaway Jr. questionable. So even more opportunity for the possibility of getting another big Jaden Hardy game. So I think he's somebody that we want to get a lot of exposure to. Chalk well worthwhile. For yourself, Neil, who's somebody else you would consider one of your strongest options for 20 max?
I'd throw D'Angelo Russell in there. Just should have all the usage in the world for the Lakers in a fast-paced game with Houston. 7,700. The price tag is a little bit high, but I just think that he's still projects really well even at 7,700, given the spot as the lead dog for the Lakers against Houston. I like D'Angelo Russell quite a bit.
Yep, I agree with that as well. I'm looking through some of my exposures and trying to find out who are some of the other ones who somebody's asking top 3 for me in 20 max. I feel good about both of our picks so far. Totally agree on D'Angelo Russell. Went with Jaden Hardy before. These are 2 of the 3 most popular players on the slate, but big difference in terms of the ownership between Hardy and Russell. Hardy projected for nearly 70% ownership on DraftKings. We've got Russell at 32%. The guy you had mentioned before, Sandro Mamukelashvili, he is projected for 61% ownership. Did I pronounce that correctly? I certainly hope so. I did my best. I gave it my best go. Let's see, though, if we could find somebody who's a little bit lower owned, because I think it's easy to say Sandro is a really strong play today as well, but he's going to be really popular. So if we're going to go with somebody who's a little bit lesser owned, I think Wenyen Gabriel is one of the more under-owned players on the entire slate. So Gabriel has a lot of opportunity to play extended minutes today. We've got almost everybody out for the Lakers, and the field is playing D'Angelo Russell, not really playing Wenyen Gabriel. So we've got no LeBron. We know about that. There's no Anthony Davis tonight either for the Lakers. And I'm kind of surprised considering all those circumstances. Gabriel's only projected for 12% ownership. Keep in mind earlier in the year, when we saw games where AD was out, there was Thomas Bryant there at the time. How many slates were there where Thomas Bryant was chalk earlier in the season and Wenyen Gabriel was somebody who would consider a pivot play off of those chalk Thomas Bryant spots? But Bryant isn't there anymore. So I think there's good opportunity for Wenyen Gabriel. He's only projected for 12% ownership. Is he somebody you like as a little bit of a contrarian option?
Yeah, definitely an interesting play tonight. We only have him projected for 21 minutes currently. Do you think that he's going to get more than 21 minutes here?
So I did give him more than 21. I think he could start. I don't think he's a lock to start by any means, but he's a really good points per minute fantasy producer. He's super cheap. And I don't think the field is playing him enough based on the opportunity. I can't say I'm confident in the minutes, but I'm confident that is the opportunity for minutes.
Would you play him significantly even if he doesn't start?
Yes. And once again, I do think there's a very good chance he starts though.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's partially going to depend on whether he starts for me. Honestly, not somebody I had given a ton of thought to just because he doesn't look all that incredible in our tools. We're only giving him a little bit under 21 minutes, which gives him about 19 fantasy points, which looks like a fine play, but nothing special. But if he does start and you can expect more than 21 minutes, certainly going to be very interesting there. And yeah, I think I agree with you. He's in play regardless of whether he starts. But I'm going to have a lot of interest if he does end up getting that start.
Yeah, he has started, but not for a very, very long time. The last time we saw Wenyen Gabriel start was November 11th against the Kings. He played 19 minutes because he got into foul trouble in that game. Oddly enough, we saw in that game, that was actually a game AD was healthy, and they just played Wenyen Gabriel starting in the front court alongside Anthony Davis. It was a game where there was no LeBron James and there was no Thomas Bryant. So kind of something that makes me think like, we haven't really seen a lot of these spots where the Lakers have been this thin in the front court. So opportunity, I think, for Wenyen Gabriel to move into the starting lineup, and just a lot of guys out for the Lakers. So somebody I like is a little bit more of a contrarian play. And by the way, we just got some news here.
News.
This is that Tim Hardaway Jr. out, Kyrie Irving out. That was expected. Kyrie said he was a long shot to play today. Christian Wood will play, though. So let's dive into Dallas, and then I'll get to more of those super chats from before. But now that we have this news, Christian Wood will be playing. Tim Hardaway Jr. is out. Who does this make appealing for Dallas? We already liked Hardy. Like, I can't like Hardy more. He's in nearly all my lineups. You can't play him like 120% of lineup. So like him a lot as is. Who else should we have our eye on from Dallas now, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Green was already somewhat in play. He'll probably pick up a little bit of extra usage with no Tim Hardaway Jr. I want to actually pull up my usage stats, but I would imagine he becomes a little bit more interesting. Justin Holiday, I believe, subbed in for Tim Hardaway in the last game. Like they subbed in and out for each other. So maybe Justin Holiday gets a start. It's partially going to depend on, the starting lineup for me. So I can't really say for sure at this point, but I think Justin Holiday probably the likeliest to get the start. Do you have an opinion there?
Let me look at some of the minutes from last game, and I think that will be pretty telling because Tim Hardaway Jr., while he did start last game, he played 28 minutes, but it was really weird because he got hurt and was able to return to the game, but missed a whole bunch of time, and then was just pretty ineffective when he came back, and seems to be, obviously, with him not playing today, that he's still fairly injured. But some of the minutes in that game, we got 25 from Maxi Kleber off the bench. We got McKinley Wright actually played more than Justin Holiday, 22 minutes for Wright, 16 and a half for Holiday. Do they start Hardy and McKinley Wright in the backcourt together? It'd be a small backcourt. It's possible. I do agree with you just looking at some of the options they have. I'm going to say that I think Justin Holiday is most likely. Boy, they do not have good options, and also might not matter all that much because they're playing against the Spurs from their standpoint. Like, whoever they win, it's probably a game that Dallas should win despite all the players that are out for them.
Right.
But I'll agree with you. I'll say Justin Holiday the most likely to start, but I wouldn't be surprised if Maxi Kleber starts and they go big in the front court. I wouldn't be surprised if McKinley Wright starts and they go really small as well. But I would be surprised if it's any. I'm not going to say surprised because then I'm going to give 3 iterations and all of them are going to be wrong. But I think that if I had to rank them in order of likelihood, I would say 1, Justin Holiday, 2, Maxi Kleber, 3, McKinley Wright.
Do you think there's any chance Christian Wood gets to start?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, there's always a chance.
There's always a chance. Here's the issue, though. I have predicted so many times this year that Christian Wood was going to start, and then he doesn't. Yeah. So it makes it difficult. So I'm not going to predict him this time, and that'll make him move into the starting lineup. That's how these things go, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea to not try to make predictions.
Yeah, we'll just sit here quietly the rest of the show.
I mean, yeah.
We'll just read off whatever chat's opinions are on the players. We'll just read it off as
Where's Kat's? I'll just read off Kat's opinions.
I don't know about that one. We'll see, though. He's certainly got plenty of takes. More takes than everybody here combined.
That's
true. Let's move on from Dallas, and we're going to have more information when we get that starting lineup, which hopefully we will be getting before the end of the post-lock show. I don't think we're going to end it before lock, but that game starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and this show is going to be going till 8 p.m. Eastern time. I think there's a pretty good chance in that 30 minutes post-lock window is when we're going to be getting the starting lineup, and also during that time, Neil and I are going to be talking about prize picks. And over at prize picks, if you guys sign up, you're going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and you're also going to get a deposit bonus of up to $100. And you could either sign up using the link we have below, or sign up at Prize Picks using the promo code GregOS, or Gregos, as the more sophisticated people like to say. And over behind the paywall at our site, you're going to find so many tools that are going to help you guys win some money. Our player projections, our ownership projections, and then, of course, the lineup generator, which we've gotten a bunch of screenshots lately from people that have won money using the lineup generator and have talked about how easy it is. And you guys get access to that for free by signing up using Prize Picks, or also we have the link below And you guys could use that link to sign up for any package on the site for 50% off, including the lineup generator, which means you could get it for less than $5. We just got some other news, by the way. Sandro Mamukelashvili, he is going to be starting in place of Zach Collins. He's projected for all of the ownership in the world. He's really cheap. It's kind of hard to get away from him, in my opinion. But, what are you going to do with him relative to ownership? By the way, cash games, guys, just go play Sandro. GPPs, what are you going to do with them? And you could call him Sandro. I'm not going to make you try to say his last name. If Eric was here, I'd make Eric do it incorrectly.
Yeah, I'm not going to try. I'll call him Sandro. I'll call him Mamu. One of those two. That's all I'm calling him. I imagine I'm going to get a good amount of Mamu here now that he's a confirmed starter. We actually, interestingly, so earlier in the day, he was by far our best value play on the entire slate. We've dropped his projection a little bit. We've dropped it down to 18 and a half minutes here, which I imagine that's going to come back up now that he is confirmed as a starter. But yeah, at 3,100, he's center. Unfortunately, center only, but I think that, just playing the center position, he's likelier. There's like a higher floor. Maybe I'm wrong about that. In my mind, it feels like there is a higher floor for center people playing center just because they can, just fall into a few more rebounds than, you don't rely as much on shooting well that night. So he's very safe. I think he's obviously just 3,100. Great matchup with Dallas. It's hard not to really want to play a lot of Mamu. How are you feeling about it?
Good piece of chalk, especially now that he's starting. Play him, lock in cash games. Don't even give it a second thought, guys. Go play him in cash games. Even in tournaments, it's a spot where I'm going to be eating the chalk here. Projected for a whole bunch of ownership, 60% over on DraftKings. FanDuel, where he has power forward and center eligibility. So here's what's different about Sandro. DraftKings, he's $3,100, only center eligible. The price point still makes it very, very easy to get to him. On FanDuel, he's a little bit more expensive at $3,900, but he's power forward and center eligible. So it just gives us more spots to fit him in. So I think he's one of the best value plays on the slate. Him and Jaden Hardy are both popular. Sometimes I'll look at a chalk play and I'll think that they are too popular. I felt that way about some Pistons guys yesterday. Not how I feel about this spot. I think we should be loading up on Jaden Hardy, should be loading up on Mamukelashvili as well. And then we just get different elsewhere. Spend up for some other options or mix in somebody like I mentioned before, a Wenyan Gabriel, who's only projected for minimal ownership. It was 12% on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, Gabriel is at 14%. So guys like that I think we could use to differentiate a little bit while still playing the chalk. And relative to the field right now in large field tournaments, if you had to right now say what you think your ownership would be on Sandro relative to that 60% number on DK, would you expect yourself to be over the field, at the field, or underweight? By the way, for me, it's over.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be under. I don't know that it's going to be that much over. I might be like right with 60% is a very high number. It does feel safe. He is only center eligible. I think that's my biggest hesitation with saying for sure I'm going to be over the field, just because I think that there are some good center plays on this slate. So hard to really try to get too far over the field. But if I had to guess, I would guess I'll be slightly over.
Okay. And then anything else that this changes for you from the Spurs? Anything else of interest with them starting? I think once Zach Collins was ruled out, it was sort of expected. So I don't really think there's too much of a trickle down effect, but do you see it differently?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I think that it just makes him a lot safer. I don't think it really changes all that much else for me from the Spurs. We did knock Sandro now up to 21 and a half minutes here. So that's good to see. We knocked Gorgui Dieng below 10 minutes, which is interesting. That's unfortunate. I really want to play Gorgui Dieng. You can't make me not play him. One other thing that I just want to mention, just because I do think it's kind of relevant as we're talking about relative value, is I noticed that we gave a huge bump to McKinley Wright's projection. We bumped him up from, I'm seeing ownership here. We bumped him up from about 23 fantasy points to 28 fantasy points with the news that Tim Hardaway Jr. is out. I don't know what to make of that. Like that's probably going to affect things somewhat if I start getting to more McKinley Wright. I don't feel all that confident in his projection. Maybe if he does get the start, obviously we will feel more confident. Maybe this is just our projections team making the assumption that McKinley Wright will get the start here, and that'll come down if he doesn't end up. But it's probably a good placeholder just because whoever is in the starting lineup from Dallas is going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I'll message Lee right now. I don't really have a strong feeling on who's going to be starting for Dallas. I do know that whoever that final piece who moves into the starting lineup I'm going to like as a value play. But I'll ask Lee right now if he thinks that Wright starts. Actually, I see him typing right now in Slack. So this is going to be very exciting in real time. He just said no strong feeling on Wright. The one thing that's really hard about when you're trying to project minutes for these total unknown situations is you have to give the minutes to somebody. And it's more or less a guess on what you think the starting lineup is going to be. So right now, Lee said he's giving McKinley Wright 25 minutes, but that's something that could go down depending what the starting lineup is, right? If they go with a big man starting lineup of like Christian Wood and Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleber, then I think that would be an indication the Mavs are going to play bigger lineups, and that would hurt Wright. But then Wright could also start, and then our minutes projection on him would go up. But Lee did say that he doesn't have a very strong feeling on Wright, but for now, he's going to be giving him 25 minutes.
That seems fair. That's not even that many minutes. He's just such a great point per dollar producer. Sorry, fantasy point per minute producer.
Yeah, let's see. What has Wright done? I like. There's just not been very many times this year I've considered McKinley Wright.
I know.
So let me see what he's done this year. He hasn't even been good from a points per minute fantasy perspective. The matchup is very good, but it's also going to be different because there's no Kyrie Irving, there's no Luka Doncic. But McKinley Wright this year is playing 11.5 minutes per game and averaging 9 fantasy points in those minutes. So has not really been the best points per minute fantasy producer, but still a small sample size. He's played a total of like 230 minutes for the entire season. So if he starts, I'll definitely be on him. If he comes off the bench, I'm probably less apt to play him. But we'll see what that starting lineup looks like. And hopefully within, I don't know, an hour or so, we should be getting that. And more super chats. Let's get back to these and answer everybody's questions. This one is from Nicholas Bennett. Kuminga projection, ? Let's see. What do we have Kuminga projected for today? I'll tell you what I have him for right now. I have Kuminga for 20.8 fantasy points. What do we have him for in our projections?
Let me see. We've got Kuminga.
By the way, Kuminga also not somebody I'm rostering today. I do not think this is a slate to play Jonathan Kuminga at all.
Yeah, we've got him at 20.2 fantasy points, and he's 5,000. So yeah, not playable at that projection, or at least not somebody that I'm planning on playing.
There's the projection though, Nicholas Bennett, and yeah, unless we were to find out like all the Warriors guys get ruled out all of a sudden, not somebody I'm going to be playing. Don Icewood, best power forward on DK, any price. All right, let's look at the lineups I've built so far. The power forward I get the most exposure to at the moment is Kawhi Leonard. Fairly cheap price for Kawhi, considering that I think he's pretty much back to full health and we're getting a discount based on where he was at previously when we last saw him healthy earlier in his career. And I think he's back to being that kind of guy. If you look at some of the not just the production for Kawhi, but this really shows how healthy he is and what the Clippers think about him right now. Last 3 games, he has played 37, 40, and 38 minutes. And that's been kind of normal for Kawhi over the last month. A lot of games where he's playing upper 30s, even lower 40s minutes. So Kawhi Leonard is the power forward I got the most exposure to. How about yourself, Neil?
Yeah, Kawhi. I have 64% currently of Kawhi Leonard. He just projects really well for us. Lofty and I were doing a show earlier, and we were doing the underdog drafts and ranked our players, and we noticed he had the 3rd best projection on the entire slate on FanDuel. At least I haven't checked on DraftKings, but he just projects really well, point per dollar. Should be a close game, pace up matchup with the Warriors. Not a lot to hate there, a lot to love for Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, we're on the same page with that. If you are going to a cheaper power forward, or we'll say somebody who isn't Kawhi Leonard, is there a preferred cheap option you have at the position?
Getting a good amount of Rui kind of the same reasoning as D'Angelo Russell. Just should get more minutes. I guess that's different than D'Angelo Russell. Get more minutes, take on a bigger role with Anthony Davis out. He's only 4,500. Just a really nice point per dollar option. Even we only have him projected for 27.5 minutes. If he gets a start, he could easily get more than that. So I like Rui quite a bit too.
Yep, Rui is somebody who will also get exposure to. Rui and Gabriel, both guys who I think are worth taking shots on for cheap for the Lakers. 2 guys that I think if they are starting or playing 30 plus minutes, they're probably underpriced. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I feel fairly decent. It's going to be one of them that takes on that kind of role tonight for the Lakers. The next question we have here is from another one from Nicholas Bennett. Best DK utility, $5,300 or under. All right. So $5,300 and utility. So it could be any player here, Neil. 5,300 or under. Looking through my projections here. That is for me, Malik Beasley, just barely edging out KJ Martin. They're very close. To me, it's one of those two guys, and I lean towards Beasley. Do you have a preferred option? 5,200 or under?
So the crazy thing is, so I'm just scrolling down based on our projections. The highest projected player, 5,300 or under, is McKinley Wright currently. We've got McKinley Wright projected for over 29 fantasy points. That is the highest of anybody, 5,300 or under. I wouldn't leave that much salary on the table. So if you really like your lineup, I would consider KJ Martin is the next in terms of projection. I do have a lot of interest in Malik Beasley, though. I think I'm with you because I think Malik Beasley has maybe more. I mean, I guess they both have a ton of upside. They both have really nice matchups. It's definitely between those two for me. I guess I'll go with KJ Martin just because we have the higher projection, but it's close there.
Somebody brought this up in chat, but it just came across Andre Iguodala out for a fractured wrist. How do you fracture your wrist? He fractures his wrist at shoot around. Like, he doesn't play basketball anymore. When did he get injured? Was he did you see there was the Warriors game where Steph Curry took a full court shot and it hit the kid in the head because Curry didn't make the shot? Like, was that Iguodala? Did Iguodala get hit by a stray ball when they were warming up or something? Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't Kevin Love break maybe it was his hand punching a wall? Maybe he punched a wall.
No, so Amari Stoudemire broke his hand punching a wall. Kevin Love, when he was on your Timberwolves, broke his hand doing push-ups.
Is that right?
Yes, he broke his hand. He was doing knuckle push-ups and his hand snapped.
Malakar keeps telling me to move my mic out. Before the show, we're saying I got to get it close. I got to find the right distance here. It has
to be closer. Like, it should be
closer than this.
If it was up to me, it'd be in your mouth. The microphone.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, but it should be close. It should be close for best sound possible. It is. So I understand what he's saying because sometimes the P's pop when it's really close, but it's also needed to hear, Neil. There's give and take with everything. I say closer is better though. Hannah Banana, DK Tears, and thanks. So I'll lead these off. I'll read these off to you guys right here. Tier 1, it is Joel Embiid in a landslide for me. Tier 2 is pretty close. We got Domantas Sabonis, Kawhi Leonard, and Steph Curry. I lean towards Sabonis there. Tier 3 is another tight one. We've got James Harden. We've got Anthony Edwards. We got Donovan Mitchell. I actually have Edwards and Harden. I got to them in an identical amount of lineups when I was building that out before. So I wonder. I'm more apt to say Edwards because I already said Embiid for tier 1. So I think that's one way to get a little bit less negative correlation. So I'll go with Edwards for tier 3. Tier 4 for me is Paul George. Tier 5, D'Angelo Russell. Russell, talked about him before. No LeBron James, no Anthony Davis. Love getting to D'Lo. So D'Lo in tier 5, and then tier 6 ended up being Kevin Porter Jr. for me. Another one that's a lot of really tight options. Not that many tiers tonight with an obvious option. Tier 6, another one. Kevin Porter Jr., Tyler Hero, Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, a lot of guys that project fairly closely. I lean towards Kevin Porter Jr. when I was running lineups. So Hannah Banana, hope that helps you with your tiers lineups tonight. Good luck to you. The Thunder wants to know who are our top 2 favorite picks over 4 prize picks. So I'll pull up our projections. And don't forget, we've got a pick 'em package now, guys. So if you guys want projections bundled together, 4 prize picks, 4 no house advantage, 4 underdog fantasy, we do have a package together, the pick 'em package. You get all of those, and you could get a 7-day free trial by clicking on the link that we have below. What looks good over on prize picks? One thing that stands out right away is we have James Harden projected for 6.7 rebounds. His over-under is 5.5 at prize picks. So I would say the over on that looks good. Let's see what else. Do you have the prize picks projections in front of you, Neil?
I do have them in front of me. And we've talked about how much we like Kevin Porter Jr., the over 3 3-pointers. I like that one. We're projecting for 3.7 here. I think he could just be really chucking it in this game. So I kind of like the D'Lo over 3 3-pointers. Did I say D'Lo?
You said Kevin Porter Jr.
Yeah, I meant D'Lo. Yeah.
D'Lo. Yeah, no, I think D'Lo makes sense. The other thing too is a pretty good chance that you would end up at worst pushing on that. I mean, over under of 3 threes, for instance, their sports books have 3.5 as the prop line for D'Angelo Russell. So I think over 3 makes a good amount of sense. I'm going to get on board with you with that one. And there's a couple of ones for you, the Thunder. We had D'Angelo Russell over 3 threes and James Harden over 5.5 rebounds, two props that project fairly well in our projections. And once again, if anybody wants to try those out for free, click on the link below. Uncle JB, is Kyle Anderson a good pivot from Keldon Johnson?
You're giving up a lot of projection there.
I am getting to a good amount of Keldon Johnson. I am not of Kyle Anderson. See, what's
Kyle
the
Anderson
difference
just
in projections?
32.4 is Kyle Anderson's projection for us. We've got, let's see.
Kyle Anderson is very expensive today as well. He is $7,000 now on DraftKings for the slow-mo. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I love slow-mo, but he just doesn't project nearly as well as Keldon Johnson, which projections, I know, they're not everything, but when you're giving up that much projection, it's a little bit tough.
Yeah,
he's the max price right now. I've never seen Kyle Anderson through his career. He's never been this expensive.
Yeah, I have Keldon Johnson project for more than 4 more fantasy points, and he's cheaper.
Which sometimes I'm willing to take a 4 fantasy point. I just don't think that Kyle Anderson is the player that I'm doing it with here.
Yeah, like what's the realistic upside of Kyle Anderson?
I mean, he's had some big games in the past month or so. Actually, the most recent game, 56.5 fantasy points. So he has been, maybe he's earned this price tag. He's been playing huge minutes, putting up some huge fantasy points the past month or so. It's not usually the player he is. I guess I've done crazier things. Like I'm going to be playing Gorgie Jeng tonight. So I'm still doing crazier things. Not the worst play in the world, but probably not somewhere I'm getting.
Yeah, I think there's been 2 games of over 50 fantasy points for Kyle Anderson this entire season. The other thing to keep in mind with this as well is it's a matchup against the Celtics. It's not exactly the easiest spot in the world. Keldon Johnson, to me, pretty clearly over Kyle Anderson. The next one here, Mr. Cool Cam 97, top 3 favorite pay-up options for FanDuel. Let me see. I was actually just rerunning FanDuel lineups for all of the Mavericks news. And let me go look to see where that ended up coming in. Because before he was ruled out, Tim Hardaway Jr. is one of my most exposed players over on FanDuel. So these lineups are going to look quite a bit differently now that I go back and look at them. And a lot of good value options on the slate. I guess it depends what we're considering pay up over on FanDuel. So let me sort by the exposures I have and see the expensive players that I ended up with the most of. So on the expensive end, like if we're going to count DeMar DeRozan at $8,300, I think him against the Kings is an excellent spend up option. He's actually the one I got the most of over on FanDuel when I was running lineups. If we're looking at the more expensive guys, it was Jason Tatum, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. But on the, like I said, if we go slightly lower tier, if we want to include him, DeMar DeRozan, I think he's another really strong option on FanDuel. Good price point and also a really good matchup. The next question here from Avi Schreier. Can we call him Mamala? You can call him whatever you want. I assume that we're not going to have to say his name very many times in his career outside of today. This is probably the pinnacle of his career, right? Are there times that we're going to have to bring up? So we could also just call him Mommy.
Mommy, I like that.
Yeah, we'll call him Mommy.
Call him Mommy.
Who's got an issue with that? A little bit of a hybrid there. From now on, Sandro is going to be called Mommy on this program. Jake Lindland, DK888, Levine and Jalen Green, or Sabonis and Murray. That is Sabonis and Murray for me.
Yeah, probably for me. Sabonis and which Murray?
Assuming means Keegan Murray. I don't like Keegan Murray in general for today, but I am not getting exposure really to Jalen Green. I'm not really getting exposure to Zach LaVine. And
I think I'd take the other side. I think that Jalen Green and Zach LaVine are both interesting plays today, just in great matchups with the Bulls playing Sacramento. I'm sprinkling in LaVine, DeRozan, and Vooch a little bit. And then Jalen Green, I think, is a viable play today. So I think I'm actually going to take the other side there.
Here's my real advice for Jake Lynn. Rebuild your lineups. Like those guys are all, none of them are great. They're all just kind of priced fairly. I don't have more than 10% exposure to any of those players. I think you should rebuild your lineup a little bit and see what other options you can come with. I know people don't like that answer. If I had to pick a side, like I said, it would be Sabonis Murray, but those aren't two combinations I'd want to be having a 2v2 against.
If the rest of your lineup is chalky, I don't have an issue with playing those two. But in general, yeah, if you're playing a bunch of contrarian options and those two are in there, maybe rethink it.
Next question is from Avi Schreier. Gabriel over Gaza on FanDuel if Gobert and Reed are out. No, if Gobert and Reed both sit today, Luka Garza would look like a really strong option. We haven't talked about all of the different permutations of injury news for later because there's a bunch of them and a lot of news that I expect will be coming out here also on the post-lock show. But when I'm looking at the injury report right now, here's what we're looking at. Rudy Gobert is questionable and Naz Reid is also questionable, just massive for the Minnesota Timberwolves in terms of what could open up in terms of value. But if both of those guys sit, I assume Luka Garza would start. And we haven't really seen very often that Luka Garza's played extended minutes, but another one of those guys, like Neil mentioned before, it's a lot easier for big men to be decent points per minute fantasy producers. And Garza would be a very high priority play if Reed and Gobert are both out. How about for yourself? You assume you'd be getting to some Garza in that scenario?
I hadn't even thought about the scenario of both of them sitting. But yeah, absolutely. If both of them are sitting and Garza gets to start, I'm going to be playing all the Garza, especially because that news will be coming pretty late. So we can, any lineup spots that I have left where I can play Garza, I would.
Rodovich 7778, Josh Green torched Memphis in a back-to-back. What will Jimmy Butler do? Probably get hurt.
Probably sit out last minute. General soreness.
Yeah, the captain, the leader of the ship. So let's see. Do I have exposure to Jimmy Butler tonight? Jimmy Butler, he's priced up to $8,700. Not going to say that he's unplayable on this slate, but here's the reason I don't really get to very much of him. We've gotten so many cheap players that have opened up now. It's not all that hard to get up to some of the more expensive guys. And there's just other guys I prefer in that price range. Most notably, I like Paul George and I like Kawhi Leonard, each more than Jimmy Butler in the same price range.
Yeah, I think I do too. I think he's a perfectly fine play.
Yeah,
relatively low ownership.
He's reasonable. There's just other guys priced around him I like better. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George being most notable. Even Zach LaVine. I have LaVine projected for more fantasy points than Butler, and he is slightly cheaper. The difference is insignificant, a tenth of a fantasy point. But even with that said, Jimmy Butler's not going to be a priority for me tonight. And the question here for what will Jimmy Butler do today? My official prediction: get injured during the game. Avi Schreier. We'll see if it ends up happening. My bold prediction of the night. Avi Schreier, can you go over who you think will match up versus who? Celtics versus Timberwolves. I can't because I don't know who's playing for the Timberwolves. I don't know. Rudy Gobert is questionable. When he sat this year, Naz Reid has started and played massive minutes and been a stud for fantasy purposes anyway. And then if both of them are out, Luka Garza starts. But I assume Luka Garza starts. It might not even be Luka Garza. They could go somewhere else.
I would expect it to be Luka Garza, probably. So I would guess whoever's at center playing against Al Horford, who's going to guard? Probably Jaden McDaniels will guard Jason Tatum, I would guess, and probably vice versa. I don't know. Jalen, I would guess Marcus Smart will be on Ant. This is not one of my strengths, guessing who's going to be on who.
It's also not knowable information for a lot of reasons. First of all, there's a lot of team defense in the NBA. We don't see that much where it's strictly man-to-man. There's a lot of switching. And the other thing, too, is we literally don't know what the starting lineup is for the Timberwolves because their two top centers on the depth chart are both questionable. So I wish we had a better answer for you, Avi, but it's just a hard one to know. There's nothing I could tell you that would be anything other than a guess.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll watch an entire game. This happened, and I get a question after, like, who was Cat guarding? And I'm like, no fucking clue. Like, who was supposed to be guarding there the entire game. So, yeah, not my strength.
Let's move on to the next super chat. This
guys,
is from...
it's Jalen McDaniels who's out, not Jaden McDaniels.
Oh, I just heard you say McDaniels. I didn't even realize which first name you said there. But next super chat, OE Brew playing Darius. I assume DG means Darius Garland, right?
Probably
playing DG in cash, or wait for other news. So let me look at some of my guard exposures here. Garland is definitely a little bit underpriced on DraftKings today. He's one of the guards that, even with Donovan Mitchell back, I still think that he's a pretty good option at $7,600 on DK. So I would say the two highest priorities in my opinion, for cash, as far as point guards go, are Jaden Hardy and D'Angelo Russell. But you could definitely have lineups that have Hardy, Garland, and Russell. You absolutely, in my opinion, need to have Hardy and Russell in cash. Garland's a good option. You don't need him in the same way that I think you need Russell and Hardy, though.
Agreed.
Next question here. Olrat 14. Fade Bam because of Love taking away rebounds for DraftKings. Also, the reason I would fade Bam is because there's just a lot of center plays I prefer to him. Like, I'm not considering the Kevin Love angle all that much. In the grand scheme of things, I just like other centers more than Bam. But is he somebody you're getting to?
I mean, I think Bam is certainly playable. He's not a priority for me. Like, I'm not going to be playing 50% Bam or 40% Bam, something like that. But my guess is I'll have 10% or so. I should see what I actually have here. It's hard because now Mommy has become a bigger priority for us. So that's taking up one of our center spots. And we just have so many good center options. I think Şengün is really interesting. I'm still going to stick with, just for the fun of it, I'm going to play a little bit of Gorgie. I'm not even recommending that. That's just something I'll have him in some center spots. So I think Bam is objectively a pretty good play. He's getting about 10% ownership. I think that's about where he should be. So he's a fine play, not a huge priority.
Yeah, if you're playing, I'll say this, if you're playing one lineup, or if I was playing just one lineup, Bam would not be in it.
Yeah.
And I always do assume that a lot of people, when they're asking us questions and if it's like a 1v1, a 2v2, or asking us about an individual player, I do think a lot of you guys, I'm making the assumption, are playing one lineup in that kind of case. And Bam would not be in a single entry lineup for me.
He does have, I'll say this, Boom Boss Tool, 10% projected ownership, 15% chance of booming, 11% chance of being optimal. So, slight positive leverage there. That's nothing out of the ordinary, nothing exceptional there, but totally a fine play.
Next question, RaceFan22. Best DK play at 5,200 or under in the utility spot. He already has Mommy. He already has Wenyen Gabriel. He already has Zach LaVine. He's got Hardy. He's got Russell. He's got Porter Jr. He's got Kawhi Leonard. So 5,200 or under, knowing that those are already the other players. I wanted to see the same lineup as the other guy, because isn't this the same price point we had before?
I think it was 5,300 under for the last one, but both of our answers were 5,200 under, which it was Malik Beasley and who was it from?
Right.
From the Rockets.
Yeah. So for me, it was very close between Malik Beasley and KJ Martin. I went with Malik Beasley. So it's going to be the same answer here. Malik Beasley, somebody I'm getting exposure to, additional opportunity for him with the Lakers being shorthanded and AD sitting again today. So Beasley, that's who I'm going to be going with there. And I mean, he's already got some exposure to the Lakers. I don't think it's problematic, though.
Yeah, totally fine.
This would be his third Laker. Good by me.
Yeah, I have a max of 3 rule. That doesn't even break my max of 3 rule, so totally fine with it. And Beasley, we're only predicting for 8% ownership. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, especially considering the added opportunity. And I think he made like 7 threes in a row last game.
I hung out with his parents. I actually have a very embarrassing story from hanging out with his parents. Last year, we found the Timberwolves bar that they would hang out at after games. And the last night after the last game of the season, we ended up hanging out with Malik Beasley's parents a little bit. I guess I'll tell you the embarrassing story really quickly. Was I offered to buy them drinks, and they were like, "Why the fuck is this random dude?" Like we were hanging out, so I was like, "I'm going to the bar. You want some drinks?" And they were like, "I guess." And then I realized later that Malik Beasley just had a tab open for them, buying them all their drinks. But they were like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." But then I bring them their drinks, and his sister was there, probably a teenager, I'd guess. And she was like, do you have a food menu? They were so confused why this random dude was bringing them drinks. She thought I worked there.
Yeah, from their perspective, they think Haggard just tried to serve their underage daughter drinks. Like that's what they're thinking. That's what they're thinking. Like, yeah, Haggard's in plaid and he's trying to serve her underage daughter drinks. We're getting out of this place. That was how they ended up seeing it.
Essentially.
Robert Cremacula, top 3 cash plays for FanDuel other than Mommy, Russell, and Hardy. By the way, Sandro, Mamu Kavalishvili. He's now known as Mommy. For everybody who doesn't know who we're talking about there.
Very confusing.
So can't be any of those players. Let's see. Who would I consider next? I think Malik Beasley is a very strong cash option over on FanDuel. DeMar DeRozan, I mentioned him before. I think he's a very strong option over on FanDuel. Let's see. Who else would I go with? Going to see. So he already has.
Rinpack, did you ask his parents what they thought of Larsa? That was, man, I wish I had.
All right. So I feel pretty good about Malik Beasley. and DeRozan being 2 of them. And then I'll say whoever ends up starting in the Lakers front court between Hachimura and Wenyen Gabriel as the other player that I'd consider to be a really strong FanDuel cash option. It's interchangeable, right? You could end up switching that depending what the starting lineup ends up being. James Magruder, $5,100 or under, 4 DK cash utility, and it cannot be Mommy or Gabriel. So now this is $5,100 or under. We keep getting cheaper. We're getting
it's in cash, did he say?
Yes. Did he say cash? Yes. $5,100 or under. So we got $100 cheaper. So the next question we get asked about this based on trends is going to be $5,000 or less.
Of course.
In the utility spot.
Looks like Trey Jones is our highest projected player for Stokastic at 5,100 or under. Not like an incredible projection. Wait, did you say cash? Sorry.
Yeah. It's Trey Jones for me as well, by the way.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because if you had that $100 more, I could give Malik Beasley as an answer again.
Right. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's Trey Jones for me as well.
Would you play Trey Jones in cash though, or would you redo your lineup a bit? Yeah, so that's the hard thing. It's like he is the highest projected player outside of, for us, for the Stokastic tools. McKinley Wright is actually the highest projected player, 5,100 or under. The next would be Trey Jones, but I probably wouldn't play Trey Jones. I'd be more likely to play somebody cheaper and upgrade elsewhere, something. Yeah, switch it up a bit.
If you love the rest of your lineup, I think Trey Jones is serviceable, but would certainly not be somebody that I would be going out of my way to play in a cash game. The next question here is from the Silent Assassin, 02. So Silent Assassin, what's up, Greg? I don't know if I missed it already, but top players on FanDuel for each position before lock? Absolutely. I'll pull up my FanDuel lineups, and these are the players I got the most exposure to position by position. Point guard for FanDuel, Jalen Green and D'Angelo Russell. Shooting guard, Jaden Hardy and Malik Beasley. Small forward, also Malik Beasley, and then DeMar DeRozan, KJ Martin, and Paul George behind him. Power forward, Mommy himself, Sandro Mamukavalishvili. Then it's going to depend, once again, who starts for the Lakers. But Rui Hachimura, I think that he's potentially a good option, as is Wenyen Gabriel. And let's see who else I have as potential options here if it's outside of them. So Sandro, then whoever starts between Rui and Gabriel. And the next answer for me is KJ Martin. Center, also Sandro center eligibility. I think Christian Wood's a really interesting tournament option. I ended up getting to him a whole bunch in lineups that I ended up running. It's tough. I've fallen for Christian Wood a bunch of times this year, but there's so many guys out for the Mavericks. I have to assume that even if he comes off the bench and plays somewhat limited minutes, it's going to be such high usage for him in that playing time. Are you getting any Christian Wood as you're building lineups here?
Let me take a look. I haven't done anything to his projection one way or the other. Currently, I have 0. So we haven't projected for 31.5 fantasy points. My God, we haven't at 1.7 fantasy points per minute in this game. Okay.
Yeah, he's an absurdly. That's the reason why also is I'm not confident in Christian Wood's minutes, but I think he's such a good tournament play because what happens if they just decide like, hey, like what happens if Powell gets into foul trouble and Christian Wood falls into 30 minutes? He's going to destroy the slate with everybody out. So I'm playing him in large field tournaments. I think he's a pretty good option for upside because if he ends up getting those minutes today, the upside is very significant.
Yeah, I've been talking to him. I'm now playing. I just made a quick tweak. I just brought him up to 20 minutes to see what would happen. Projection of 34 then at 6,000 looks really good. Yeah, I think I'm going to play some Christian Wood.
Corey Bomber is asking us for our favorite Rocket. Was it Corey Restless our favorite Rocket the other day as well?
Was that when when they were playing the Celtics? Somebody asked the question, if the Celtics keep this game close, who is going to be the reason they do it? And you look at the top scoring players on that slate, it was like all Rockets.
Yeah, because they beat the Celtics outright in that game.
Yeah, that was insane.
Corey Bomber wants to know favorite Rocket for tonight. This is supposed to be the thing. Somebody asks us our favorite Rocket every day. Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Şengün, and let's see. Who do I have the most exposure to from the Houston Rockets? I have a very similar amount of Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. right now. If I had to pick one, I would say Jalen Green. I think him and Porter Jr. are fairly similar, and Green's less popular. So Jalen Green, my answer. The next question here is from Xiaolin Verse. He wants to know, can we see the FanDuel ownership and then GPP flyers? Thanks, pimps. Oh, look at that. We're called pimps.
Thank you. We were called virgins last show, so this is kind of the other end of the spectrum.
We're evolving.
We're evolving.
Can you throw that up on the screen, Jordan, the FanDuel ownership? And I will read it off right now as well. The most recent run of some of the most popular players. I'll do it for FanDuel and DraftKings. I know he only asked for FanDuel, but I'll read off the few most popular players on FanDuel. Then I'll do it for DraftKings as well. And by the way, keep in mind, guys, if you guys want access to all the tools we have over at Stokastic, you could sign up for an NBA package using the link below, and you're going to get 50% off. Something definitely to take advantage of. Or if you sign up at Prize Picks using our link, you're going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. But we have McKinley Wright projected for an extremely high amount of ownership on FanDuel. I can't imagine he's actually going to be 50% owned. Maybe he'll start and he'll end up being that popular, but my intuition here is that we're not going to see McKinley Wright 50% owned, but that's where he's projected right now. Mommy, 55%, Jaden Hardy, 57%, Josh Green, 40%, Jared Vanderbilt, 32%. Those are all the players north of 30% ownership on FanDuel. Malik Beasley at 29%, fairly close. Over on DraftKings, 77% Jaden Hardy, 75% for the mommy himself. Josh Green at 42%. McKinley Wright project for 40% ownership on DraftKings. D'Angelo Russell coming in at 31%. That rounds out all of the players projected for north of 30% ownership over on DraftKings. So hopefully that helps you guys if you're making any last second decisions and trying to figure out who the chalk plays are. And now I'll go into Discord. Sorry we didn't get to these questions earlier, but we've got a lot of questions in the YouTube chat via the super chat that I want to make sure that I answered. So we'll bang out these as quick as possible. Sir George, that's what she said. Sir George Peelsworth, Mitchell and Hero, or Harden, Keldon Johnson for a FanDuel GPP. And then I get notifications from Eric that are making these messages disappear. Mitchell and Hero or Harden and Keldon Johnson is Harden and Keldon Johnson for me. Swaz, playing Bam from the early game on FanDuel and cash or wait for news. I do think Bam is a better play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, so I'm okay with him in FanDuel cash. I wouldn't play him in DraftKings cash, though. Hef Love, any benefit in going back to Chetty Osman tonight? No, Donovan Mitchell's back. Donovan Mitchell was out yesterday. That was the main reason we saw the extended run from Chetty. Miami High Life, thoughts on PG and Kawhi in the same lineup for the DK $15 GPP? If you're playing a bunch of lineups, I don't mind if a couple of lineups have both of them. If you're playing one lineup, I would not have both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in it.
Unless you run it back with a Warriors player, then maybe. If you want to do a mini game stack.
Super chat from my filler arc. Every time we say Sandro's last name, a UFC fighter gets choked out or submitted. That would be impressive because there's not a UFC event going on right now. If I have that kind if I have that kind of power, though, I'll use it wisely. It seems like a convenient way to win fights.
Yeah.
Big Dream $sign on FanDuel tonight. Who is the one guy you know will be massively owned in high stakes, but is vulnerable to fall flat? It's an interesting question. Somebody I know is going to be really high owned on FanDuel and high stakes. Well, I mean, we don't have that. So, like, there's only 5 guys that are projected for a ton of ownership. Vanderbilt, Green, McKinley Wright, and I'm kind of skeptical of Wright's ownership projection. Mommy, and then Jaden Hardy. Of those players, I say Vanderbilt just because of the foul issues he has sometimes. It's just a clear path for him to fail. I think he's a great play, but I could see the path where he fails. Green, do I like Kawhi over Tatum? I do have more exposure to Kawhi. Gangrene also asked if Langford starts. Do you like him? I don't think I'll be playing Romeo Langford today. Enough value options. He's a pretty crappy points per minute fantasy producer. Supak asking Jalen Green or KPJ. Prefer Jalen Green. Mincash Merchant, max 3 or 4 today. Also, who is my natty winner? I've not built out tournament lineups yet. How about for yourself, Neil? Do you have a national tournament champion winner for college basketball?
Oh, I was like, what are you even talking about? I don't know what that means. No, I do not. I think Aton said the Huskies. You could go UConn. I don't know if he was serious about that. I don't know if they're a contender. I have not looked closely at the brackets yet.
And then we got a follow-up from Avi Schreier. Is Keldon Johnson a smash tonight? I'm playing quite a bit of Keldon Johnson, so I hope so.
Yeah, looks really good. Okay, we got both Gobert and Naz Reid available to play Austin Rivers out.
All right, so the Naz Reid one, Rudy Gobert being in, kind of makes the Timberwolves. Are you playing anybody from the front court there?
No, I don't think so. We've got too many center options. It's hard to really want to play Gobert.
Yeah, I just got the hiccups.
Is that going to be enough?
I'm hoping Eric's tears will solve that.
I bet they will.
Yeah, it always does. It always makes me feel better. Nice little sip of Eric's tears. So what did you end up with? I was building my lineups right up until lock there. Who are you rooting for today? If we go position by position here, who'd you end up with the most exposure to?
So currently at point guard, it would be McKinley Wright, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell. Shooting guard, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Paul George, and Malik Beasley. Small forward, Kawhi, Keldon Johnson, Paul George. Power forward, Kawhi, DeMar DeRozan, KJ Martin Jr., and center, Mommy, Christian Wood. And then drop down, I did play 16% Gorgie Jeng is currently in my lineup.
You could really make anything catch on if you just say it confidently enough and just say, all right, guys, this is what we're doing now. This guy's name is Mommy. And everybody's like, all right, it's Mommy.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
It works. Yeah.
The point guards I got the most exposure to were Hardy, Garland, and Russell. Shooting guard, also Hardy, Russell, and then Paul George. Small forward, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Keldon Johnson. Power forward, Kawhi Leonard, Gabriel, and Rui Hachimura. Depending who ends up starting there, pretty interchangeable for me between Gabriel and Rui. And then at center, Mommy. I did end up with a good amount of Christian Wood. He's in about half my lineups. I'm playing for the upside there. Great matchup
I love
too against the Spurs.
Yeah, when you can just see if he just gets to 22 minutes, he's going to be a smash play. That's the kind of play that you want to play in some GPPs. So you did not buy into McKinley Wright is what I am taking away from this.
If he starts, then it'll change stuff for me.
Yeah, for sure. It'll change stuff for me too. Obviously, if he doesn't start, probably not going to be playing 88%.
So we will we'll see what ends up happening with the starting lineup, which hopefully we should get on this show. That game starts in 58 minutes, and we don't know yet. But going back to Christian Wood. He's such a good points per minute fantasy producer. I just one more time want to harp on this. And this could absolutely blow up in my face because it doesn't matter how good of a points per minute fantasy producer you are if he ends up playing 18 minutes or something like that again.
Right.
But if he gets the minutes, which I think is within the realm of possibility today, Christian Wood is 6,000 on DraftKings and projected for 2% ownership. Over on FanDuel, Christian Wood is 6,100 with power forward and center eligibility and is projected for 10% ownership. That's a potential low on slate breaker.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wish he was power forward eligible, but I'm playing 28%, so that's still well above the field, I believe.
Oh, by the way, we did get the Lakers starting lineup a couple minutes ago here, and it is Russell, Beasley, Troy Brown Jr., Rui Hachimura, and Jared Vanderbilt as the starting five for the Lakers. So Rui is going to be starting, and it is not Wenyen Gabriel. So I'll be making some adjustments to my lineups now. Just take some minutes off of Gabriel, give it to Rui.
Did we have Bates Jop in or out? Just ruled out.
We had him.
Yeah, we had him in playing 28 minutes. Yeah, he just got rolled out. Oh, it's Gorgie Jeng Day, right?
No.
It increases the chances though.
It's not going to massively change anything for me with the Spurs because they're just going to it's going to be like minutes go to Doug McDermott, minutes go to Blake Wesley, minutes go to Romeo Langford. I don't doubt there's going to be a cheap guy from the Spurs who comes off the bench and probably has a decent game. I just have no clue who that's going to be.
Yeah, I guess I got Malachi Branham in too. We were expecting him out earlier. So yeah, they do actually have a number of bodies here.
All right, let's update for the Lakers, change some lineups here. Do you have any, kind of like me with Christian Wood, do you have any super low on plays like that you are gravitating towards today?
I mean, not that I'd recommend for other people to play. Gorgie Jeng was the one, but honestly, I'm losing faith in that. As I see how many Spurs are actually available, I'm like, is Pop really going to play Gorgie at least 15 minutes? I'm not confident in that. I really want it to be the case just because Adam said he will never have a usable fantasy game again just yesterday, and it'd be hilarious if he did today. But all right, let me look. Steph Curry is only 3% owned. I actually don't have any currently, but I don't mind the play. Obviously going to play some Ant. I actually like Jaylen Brown at under 5% is pretty interesting. Do you mean just value plays though, or like? No, it could be
anybody because I mean Christian Wood is just a mid-range price play who I ended up getting.
I like Şengün exposure to. I like Şengün quite a bit. So I know that people are asking about who's your favorite from the Rockets. I guess I like the idea of sprinkling in one player. Like I kind of like Şengün. I kind of like KPJ. I kind of like Jalen Green, but Şengün is coming in at just 6.6% ownership. I think people are afraid to play him just because his minutes have been so sporadic. But I do, in this matchup with the Lakers, I think he's really interesting at 7,000. Sucks that he's only center eligible. So that's the hard part about playing Şengün. I would love him so much if he were power forward eligible, but still playing, I've got 16% currently. The field's at under 7%. So I like that.
And by the way, we just got and by the way, thank you, because I saw somebody tagged me on Twitter, the Lakers starting lineup, but it came out after lock, the Lakers starting lineup. It came out at 7:31, so 1 minute after the slate locked. And very important point too from Josh of Los Angeles. Gorgeous Dong is a DFS legend.
That's true.
Legend in many ways.
So Ryan Houston asks, is Wenyen, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'll ask this for you. Is Wenyen still playable even though he's not starting?
I just updated my lineups. I have way more Rui, but I still have 5% of Wenyen Gabriel.
Okay. That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, so I have my power forward exposure is definitely skewed towards Kawhi Leonard and Rui Hachimura right now. And then some of the lower owned guys who, I shouldn't say lower, but in my lineups, lower owned, but guys who I have, 5% more exposure to: Gabriel, KJ Martin, Reggie Bullock's another one. Bullock, somebody who I think could end up playing extended minutes. But in the playoffs last year, there was times where Reggie Bullock, when the Mavericks were shorthanded, they're playing Bullock like 44 minutes. This could be a really, really big workload for him with the Mavericks being shorthanded.
True.
Did we get another super chat in here? No, I see a bunch of deleted messages that you took care of, it appears. Here we go.
Just Brandon Katz talking shit about Gorgie Dieng. Had to block him.
Yeah, he was victory lapping Jalen Duren on Twitter yesterday.
We don't need to get into the Brandon Katz, what he will victory lap. Sometimes he says things that are just outwardly wrong, and then he'll victory lap like some other thing, whatever.
Which that would have been big yesterday, because I had said that if Jalen Duren broke the slate, because in chat yesterday, Brandon Katz was emphatic that he was a great play. Eric was emphatic that he wasn't. I was thinking, boy, this could be a good angle for me to get rid of Eric once and for all.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, if Jalen Duren breaks the slate, Eric's gone. Brandon Katz is the new co-host on Live Before Lock.
Fair is fair.
I'm sorry, Neil. Unfortunately, that would come at your expense as well, but these are how these decisions are made.
I get it.
And then what happens, Jalen Duren picks up 3 personal fouls in 2 minutes and doesn't have a good game, and Eric's job was safe for today.
For one more day.
And
that's another reason that I have to block Brandon Katz, because I don't want him taking my job.
Good point.
Always at risk.
Good point. One of the 40 players he says are good plays might have a good game one time, and then you're out of the gig.
Every once in a while. Yeah.
Andres Alfonso, Josh Green and Kevin Porter Jr., or Hardy and Jalen Green. That is Hardy and Jalen Green. Pretty much any combination where one side is Hardy today and the other side doesn't, I'm probably going to be going to the Hardy side. Jay,
as long as the other player is reasonable.
Jay asking his normal question: can we talk showdown strategy for Golden State Warriors Clippers? I was waiting for your super chat, Jay. I've got my lineups right in front of me. So the captains I got the most exposure to, not as much Steph Curry. Lean more towards the Clippers guys when I ran lineups. I got to Kawhi Leonard 1, Paul George 2, and then there's a pretty big drop off before I got to Steph Curry as my 3rd most rostered captain option. But as a result of that, Curry actually ended up in the utility spot for me more frequently than Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. Terrence Mann was a value play I got to a whole bunch. And then Draymond Green in the mid-range, Klay Thompson in the mid-range, 2 other options that I liked quite a bit for this slate. So that's how I would round it up. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, my preferred options for captain. I do like Steph Curry and the utility on the other side. Trey Mann is a value play. And then the mid-range, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. Jay, good luck tonight. Hope that helps you with your showdown lineups. All right. A lot happened here.
JV asking, did Eric get fired or is it a joke? No, Eric did not get fired. Eric has been doing a lot of content on the Odd Shopper channel before this one, so can't do back-to-back shows. Oh, you're not sure. You're thinking might have gotten fired. You don't want to say for sure.
Yeah, it's just some personal stuff that it's kind of like the John Morant situation where, hey, just away from the team for a little bit, we'll end up seeing what happens.
Yeah.
He was in a strip club with a gun. We don't know whose gun it was. Apparently, it was his buddies. Eric gets
Right.
involved in that same stuff. The rumor is actually John Morant got the gun from Eric Lindquist. That's the word on the street. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all.
He's hardened now that he's out in LA. Back when he was in the Midwest, he was a nice boy.
And we do have an announcement right here. This is from, I believe it's Jordan Klein who typed it in. Eric will be on PGA Live before lock after this.
Nice.
Which is really a demotion. Moving Eric from the NBA show to the PGA show. I know it's not fired. It's certainly a demotion, though.
Yeah.
And you guys will see Eric. Yeah, aggressive goose. Eric is in rehab. Listen, you don't want to get too much into the personal details. It was John Morant who had to go to rehab, but I know where he got the weapon from. And by the way, I don't believe that story for a second, the John Morant one.
Oh, of course not.
It's the most ridiculous story ever. He was in a nightclub with a gun, but he only had the gun for the purpose of making that Instagram video, and he borrowed the gun from somebody.
John Morant seems like the kind of guy who's going to be like, "Hey, can I have your gun so I can do an Instagram video?" Like, give me a break.
It's such a bizarre request. The idea that he went up to somebody's like, "Hey, I'm about to make this Instagram video. Can I have your gun for a little bit?"
No, it's the dumbest.
I'm not a Mark Adam Silver. I know that's not a real story. I don't know what actually happened. I don't know why it is that John Morant has to go to rehab for gun use or whatever it is that's going on. But there's something about the story that doesn't add up. I don't know what it is, but there's information missing.
100%.
Jake Linlin, last spot for the $3,700 on DK, Wright, Gabriel, or other. All right, let's look. $3,700 or under.
I mean, it'd be right for me.
Okay. It's probably right for me as well. But let me check because I don't remember all of the players who are 3,700 or under off the top of my head. McKinley Wright, that's my answer. It would have been Wenyen Gabriel if Wenyen Gabriel was starting, but guess what? Wenyen Gabriel isn't starting. So McKinley Wright is going to be my answer there. And I'm super curious to see what the Dallas Mavericks starting lineup ends up being because
me too. It's going to affect things.
The starting lineups we don't have yet, by the way. Pulling this up. What are we still missing? And they'll build out some prize picks lineups as well. We'll look at some of our projections. They'll build a prize picks card for you guys. But as of right now, we've got lineups for all but the last two games on the slate. So we do not have a Maverick starting lineup, which is going to be massive. Is it going to be Christian Wood? Is it going to be McKinley Wright? Is it going to be some really weird Theo Pinson, Frank Ntilikina type player, perhaps? San Antonio Spurs, another one. I don't know exactly what that starting lineup is going to be. Could be a bunch of guys. And then in the later stages of the slate, Warriors, Clippers, we know what's going to go on there. But Dallas, San Antonio, no clue what to expect from that starting lineup.
Yeah.
Race Fan 22, thoughts on Doug McDermott for DK? I don't think I played Doug McDermott.
I don't think we gave him that many minutes, but let me look. I mean, if Gorgui Dieng is playable, then Doug McDermott is playable. It's questionable. I don't know that necessarily that either of them are actually playable at this point.
I would say that Gorgui Dieng is not playable, but this is where we.
I think that's a fair statement. Yeah, it's probably not playable since he's not starting. Yeah, we've got Doug McDermott in for 12 minutes. There's only 10 players available for the Spurs, and they're tanking, so they're really unpredictable. Really, there's no reason to play Doug McDermott or Gorgui Dieng, if I'm being honest.
I don't know what the record is for fewest players available in one game, but it doesn't seem like the Mavericks or the Spurs have very many guys available. Certainly not very many good guys available.
Yeah. Yeah, how many do the Mavs have?
Like 10? And most of them are absolute trash. Like the players we have available is like JaVale McGee, Davis Bertans, Theo Pinson. I mean, we're talking about McKinley Wright because the rest of the guys here just suck.
Right.
But like he's in his own right still fairly shitty. And then like Frank Ntilikina. So it's not great. Not great. Double check and make sure we didn't get any more super chats. If not, build out some prize pick stuff. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna end up playing Doug McDermott here, Race Fan, unless we get the unless something crazy happens where somebody's unexpectedly ruled out and he starts. There's too many weird guys off the bench that I don't know what to make the minutes of for the Spurs, and almost all of them are poor points per minute fantasy producers, McDermott included. So that's going to be a no for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Sorry, one more super chat. Sir Ruin of House Roundhead, love hearing you guys say mommy a lot. If his name was spelled with a U instead of an O, we could have called him the Mummy. We could have, but we're not going to do that. I much prefer calling him Mommy than Mummy.
Mommy's a lot better, I think.
Yeah. I mean, unless we're overseas and we're in England, we call him mum.
Yeah.
But no. Mommy, this is America. We just get another weird starting lineup? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
All right, let's go and look at some of the prize picks stuff. I'm going to refresh our projections right now. Do you have it pulled up in front of you, Neil?
I did. Let me refresh it, though. Could have changed. But yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, so we gave answers before. Who was it? It was the Thunder. The Thunder left us a super chat and wanted to know who our favorite prize picks plays were.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, we gave out D'Angelo Russell. We gave out James Harden. Harden has locked, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Harden is locked. Memphis-Miami game is locked. So that one is off the table. I really like the one that you'd shout out before, D'Angelo Russell over 3 3-pointers. That's still available on the board. One other one that looks better for us now than it did earlier because of the most recent news, Reggie Bullock over 4 rebounds. And Reggie Bullock, clearly not a prolific rebounder, but we're just talking about how many players are out for the Dallas Mavericks. And there's the opportunity for Bullock to just go out and play 40 minutes or something insane today. And that's what really helps the counting stats. We have Reggie Bullock projected for about 5.5 rebounds today when his line is 4. So that's somebody else that I think is going to benefit from this news. We should be playing on prize picks there. So got D'Lo, you mentioned before, over 3 threes. I like that. I like Reggie Bullock over 4 rebounds. What stands out to you about what's left on the board?
I'm intrigued by these Alperen Şengün lines. I kind of want to take the over on 8.5 rebounds just because I think that he has upside to play more minutes than we are projecting him for. And he's in a matchup with the Lakers without Anthony Davis, without LeBron, like should just be able to eat up the board. So I think I kind of like that. We've only got it winning 51% of the time, but I think that he has upside for more minutes than we're projecting him for. So I like the over on 8.5 rebounds for Alperen Şengün.
Okay. Let me check. What do I have there? You know what I would really like Şengün for? By the way, I do like the over. I do like the over on rebounds. I'm curious to see because I think there's so much variance with his minutes. I'm just going to pull up. I know FanDuel usually offers a bunch of alternate lines. I'm just curious to see what some of those alt lines are. Just a way to get some added upside. Like if there's really crazy odds on like 12 plus rebounds, I'll probably take a stab on that right now. All right. Player rebounds. Şengün for 10 plus, only plus 130, 12 plus 330. I was hoping for a little bit longer odds than that, but I like the over 8.5. By the way, it goes to show on FanDuel for him to have over 9.5 rebounds is only plus 130. So I do think we're getting pretty good value on that 8.5 number over on prize picks. I like that call by you.
I do want to say Jonathan Bennett says that we missed his super chat. Do you see one from him? I'm scrolling up. I don't see a super chat from Jonathan Bennett that we missed, but just FYI.
Let me look. Oh, we did. My bad. Okay. All right, here it is. Jonathan Bennett, just home from work, top plays at each position. Oh no, we did answer this. We went over our top guys at each position right before lock.
Okay. You want to do it again?
Yeah, we could do it again. Top guys that I got exposure to at each position. At point guard, Jaden Hardy and D'Angelo Russell. How about for yourself at point guard, Neil?
Sorry, I'm just refreshing. I'll tell you what I got the last run, which was McKinley Wright, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell.
And then for actually, this is going to be convenient because the last time we did this, we didn't know who was starting at power forward for the Lakers yet because we did it just as we were heading into lock there. Shooting guard for me, also Jaden Hardy, Paul George, and D'Angelo Russell. Small forward, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Keldon Johnson. How about for yourself at small forward?
Small forward, Kawhi Leonard, Keldon Johnson, Paul George.
Same guys. Power forward ended up being then Kawhi and Rui now that he was starting. So Kawhi and Rui. How about yourself?
Kawhi, DeRozan, and KJ Martin, but I am about to run another crunch where I think I'm going to get to more Rui, so my guess is he'll enter that lineup.
And then center, we got Mommy, we've got Rui Hachimura, and then Christian Wood. That's my guy to differentiate some of my lamps. I did not have him projected for much ownership, and I ended up going pretty heavy here with Christian Wood. He's in over half my lineups. How about yourself, Neil? What did you go to at center most often?
Yeah, so also Mommy #1 for me, Christian Wood #2, and then my guy Gorgie #3. But it's Gorgie Joel Embiid, actually Wendy and Grable, I am going to be running another crunch. I'm probably going to get rid of one or two of my Gorgie lineups. I don't know, 16%. I'm not playing that much money today, so I'm okay taking that risk. But the high ones are Mommy and Christian Wood.
My filler arc, that is a very interesting way to spell DiVincenzo. I know it means DiVincenzo, but he did D space and then Van Kenko or Looney. So DiVincenzo or Looney for the late slate. Let's see. Those are not guys that I consider at all for the main slate. But let me look at the Warriors and where I have these guys projected. That's so close. I have them separated by 1/10 of a fantasy point with a lean towards Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah, I have the same lean, not a strong one.
It's tight. I didn't play either of them on the main slate. I understand the late slate. Totally different scenario. By the way, Marion Alexander saying, why are you guys saying that Keta Bates' job is out? Because he's out.
Yep, that's my reasoning too.
Because he's not playing basketball today. Yeah, so he wasn't even on the injury report earlier, but he was ruled out with, I think it was Achilles soreness. What do the Spurs even give a shit about injury reports at this time of the year? They're not competing with anybody for anything. Are people confused about who Mommy is? Mommy
Maybe.
is a lock. Your mom. Yeah, I'm playing your mom tonight. Sandro Mamukavalishvili. Double checking Discord to see if we got any questions in here. If not, then we will go back over to the Prize Picks building. No more. All right, so let's pull back up Prize Picks and see if there's anything else that we like from here. I mean, I'm going to stick with Jaden Hardy. We've got another prop for him here. So many of these Dallas props project well for us, and it's just sensible. Even though these guys, like Reggie Bullock, isn't a great rebounder, if you're just going to give guys like Reggie Bullock, Jaden Hardy massive minutes, they're going to be expected to collect some of them on occasion. So Hardy, same line as Reggie Bullock. We've got Hardy projected for 5 rebounds. His over-under on Prize Picks is 4. I like that over. Is there anything else you're seeing you want to add to what we've talked about Prize Picks?
I mean, you know that when I see Anthony Edwards as one of our top 10 bets on the board, I'm going to have some interest in that. And the line is 2.5 3-pointers. We've got him projected for just over 3. We have that one hitting, I mean, just 51% of the time, but I'm going to like that just because it's Ant. I don't have any really great analysis other than should be a close game. We like the over here. It's one of our top bets on the board. Ant not afraid to chuck it. We do have Naz Reid available, which don't love that, but yeah, I'd take that one.
Yeah, it's actually something. So we have, if you guys didn't see on my Twitter page, we have something. We have a page on Chalkboard now. It's a really cool free app, and it's going to have a lot of utility for sports betting. They're getting bet tracking in there for every single sports book. They're working on that now. And then also it's a community forum where we can just post a bunch of bets for free. It's myself in there. It's Lofty. It is Josh Engleman. Jay Kari's posting some hockey stuff. We got Matt Gajewski posting college basketball in there as well. The reason I bring this into your Anthony Edwards is a bet that I posted in there earlier today was Anthony Edwards over 2.5 threes.
Love that.
We're on the same page there. By the way, also, if you guys want to join our chalkboard, it's totally free. I've got a link on my Twitter page. You guys could just click on that and join the chalkboard. I think it's going to be really valuable for the upcoming NCAA basketball games, especially because we got Matt Gajewski posting college basketball bets in there, and it's all going to be all free.
Can I throw something out there? I'm curious your opinion on this. Dominic Barlow, only power forward eligible. I didn't do anything to his projection. We boosted his projection up to 20.6, and suddenly I'm getting him in a ton of lineups. How do you feel about Dominic Barlow tonight for the Spurs?
Let me see. What did I do with Dominic Barlow?
I think it might just be a case of we don't know what's going to happen with the Spurs, so we're spreading out their minutes a lot of different places.
Yeah, so outside of Mommy and then exposure to Keldon Johnson, I did end up with a couple of Trey Jones lineups. I didn't really play any of the peripheral pieces on the Spurs just because, like I was saying before, I don't doubt that there's going to be a cheap guy that goes out and scores like 25 fantasy points. I just have no clue which one it's going to be, and I don't think the upside is crazy significant.
Yeah, it's kind of unpredictable. I mean, it's entirely unpredictable.
I don't think the downside is worth the upside.
That's fair.
We got a super chat from Olrat14. How much Justin Holiday on DK? For now, I don't really have exposure to Justin Holiday. That would change if the starting lineup comes out and it's him in there.
Yep, exact same for me. If he ends up starting, I'll have some interest, probably a good amount of interest really in that matchup. But until we get that starting lineup, hard to want to play Holiday.
My dream for tonight's slate is that we end up getting Christian Wood starting, because I've already got him. I've already got him preloaded in so many lineups, and now we're at a spot where, so the next batch of games is going to lock in 3 minutes. Bulls Kings, Lakers Rockets, Celtics Timberwolves, and then all we're going to have left is Dallas San Antonio and Warriors Clippers. If Christian Wood starts, I don't know how much flexibility people are going to have to swap onto him as often as they should. So I just hope he starts and I get to play a low-owned Christian Wood, who would be my favorite play on the slate by a mile. Like, he's already the guy I'm the most overweight to the field to. Give me a Christian Wood start. But anyway, to Olrat's question, not playing Justin Holiday right now. I will play him if he ends up starting.
Yep, same.
Let's check on some of the early results for the games, because we had a lot going on there. We were talking about Prize Picks. And one more reminder, guys, if you sign up at Prize Picks, either using the link below or the promo code GregOS, you're going to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, access to all of our tools for every single sport, plus deposit bonus up to $100. Early results from the basketball games. Joel Embiid off to a decent start, 9 points and 2 rebounds. Darius Garland, 0 stats across the board. 1 turnover, negative fantasy points for Darius Garland. We've got
JJJ. I mean, Jaren Jackson is the highest on the board with 14 fantasy points so far.
I was going game by game. I didn't get there yet.
Oh, sorry.
So what do we have? There isn't that much. This is a very low scoring game. 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Grizzlies Heat scores 17-14.
There's really nobody you want. If you have nobody from the first slate of games, you're looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, like even Triple J, like, cool, he's 9 points and 4 boards, solid, but it's not like he's, destroying the slate or anything. And I presume he's also extremely low owned.
Right.
So I don't think he'll be all that impactful. Double check that. Yeah, Triple J is at, what is his ownership? Yeah, 3%. Not a popular guy at all. So see what happens. What are you sweating the most for tonight, Neil? What are you hoping happens?
Probably McKinley Wright. I cut back our projection significantly and still have him in 88% of lineups. And because he's not getting a ton of ownership, I'm probably not going to mind that. I probably would be just fine with that amount of ownership. So probably just because I have so much McKinley Wright, it's going to end up being him.
We've got some predictions in the chat. Tyrone Phillips says Austin Reeves, slate breaker. And we've also got Jack Off saying Austin Reeves over 3.5 assists.
All right.
I just want to read him because of his YouTube handle. And one question we got really quick at the end here. Big Dream $. I swapped Vanderbilt and PG-13 for Russell and Orford. Thoughts? Interesting, because of those players, I have the most exposure to Russell, but I have the least exposure to Horford.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'd rather play... It's tough. Who would you rather play? Vanderbilt and PG-13 or Russell and Horford?
Russell and probably somebody other than Horford would be my best answer, but it'd still probably be that one.
Yeah, he has to... I mean, the question just came in. So I know Horford had one good game. Was it a week-ish ago or something like that? All right, Jordan's kicking us off. We can't be here anymore. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Coming up next, Eric Lindquist returns from his suspension. He's going to be on PGA Live before lock, so check that out. As for our video, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck tonight, everybody.